Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's live stream of the Goldie Show, which I'm calling Trump Just Changed Iran's Future Overnight. And I'm calling that for good reason. Now, I'm starting my live stream a little bit early. I did film almost a 45-minute long video today, sort of giving my analysis, and I called it the calm before the storm. And that's still pretty relevant. I'm going to finish editing that later tonight, and I'll probably upload it tomorrow morning because the analysis is still pretty relevant. And given what President Trump just put out a couple of hours ago, if anything, it makes me feel like I'm even more confident in my analysis. And I'm going to explain why. So guys, get settled in because we're going to have a very interesting evening. I have some videos I want to share with you, some analysis, some discussion, and we might even do like a Sean Hannity or a Jesse Waters watch party as well. And if anyone has super chats, I will get to them in a little bit as well. I'll make sure to get through all of the super chats as well. Um, you know, guys, in the space of 48 hours, we've actually seen a dramatic turn of events. And just like I mentioned a few hours ago, Donald Trump apparently put the brakes on a military strike against the Islamic regime that was set to go down Tuesday, tomorrow. And the reason that he, put it on hold is because he said there are serious negotiations and some urging from certain Persian Gulf and Middle Eastern countries. So let's see what President Trump is actually talking about here. So President Trump posted just a few hours ago. I have been asked by the Emir of Qatar, Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud, and the President of the UAE, Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, to hold off on our planned military attack of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Guys, right there, do you notice how instead of saying Iran like he usually does, he says the Islamic Republic of Iran, right? Because again, President Trump is making a distinction between the Iranian people who are being held hostage by the Islamic regime versus the Islamic regime itself. So he says to hold off on our planned military attack. So President Trump is essentially confirming that whatever military strike that was supposed to happen tomorrow, if it was supposed to happen tomorrow, it was not only the United States and Israel that was going to be involved. According to President Trump, this lets me know that whatever military strike was supposed to happen tomorrow would have also included the involvement of Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. Okay? So let me just go back here. I'll start from the beginning. I have been asked by the Emir of Qatar, Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud, and the President of the UAE, Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, to hold off on our planned military attack of the Islamic Republic of Iran, which was scheduled for tomorrow, in that serious negotiations are now taking place, and that, in their opinion, as great leaders and allies, a deal will be made, which will be very acceptable to the United States of America, as well as all countries in the Middle East and beyond. This deal will include, importantly, no nuclear weapons for Iran. Based on my respect for the above-mentioned leaders, I have instructed Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Daniel Keane, and the United States military that we will not be doing the scheduled attack of Iran tomorrow, but have further instructed them to be prepared to go forward with a full, large-scale assault of Iran on a moment's notice in the event that an acceptable deal is not reached. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. So, guys, a few things here. So, a lot of people, who don't understand, geopolitics or military analysis or how President Trump operates, they're going to look at this and they're going to be like, "Oh, Trump is chickening out, taco, blah 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 blah," whatever, because that's all, that's all they're capable of thinking, right? Like, I mean, these are people who are not geopolitical analysts. They're not military analysts. They're not political analysts. So, don't pay attention to what random trolls are saying. And I'm noticing there's like a lot of trolls in the chat tonight. Like, I don't know. Do you guys have nothing better to do? Like, just get out of here. You guys are weird. And if there are any mods here, just feel free to. Brent is a troll. All right. Okay, let me just get rid of Brent. All right, bye, Brent. Bye. See you never. All right. Anyways, yeah, like the trolls are just gonna troll, right? I mean, just you guys can block the trolls as well. But if there's any trolls, let me know. I'll try to get rid of them because we're here to have a conversation. We're here to have informed debate. Of course, we can have questions and go back and forth and different opinions. But yeah, like just trolls are they have nothing better to do. Anyway, so the reason that this is significant, guys, is because this is putting the Islamic regime on notice that it's not just the United States and Israel anymore that is going to be involved. There's also Qatar, although I personally don't trust Qatar. There's also Saudi Arabia, which again, iffy. And there's also the UAE. Now, the reason that Saudi Arabia and the UAE, I believe, would be interested in getting involved is because the Islamic regime has been attacking them. In fact, the UAE has been the most attacked by the Islamic regime, which makes no sense because the UAE, for the longest time, was actually bankrolling the Islamic regime and bankrolling the IRGC, and they were allowing the IRGC to funnel money through the UAE. So it's very interesting how the UAE has taken a turn here. Now, this message also lets me know that and this was in the video that I was working on, and I was, I finished making the video. I just haven't finished editing it yet, so that's going to come out tomorrow. But in my video, I basically said that all the conditions are ready for escalation, and that includes all of the military assets. So what I said in my video is that at this point, I believe that there's no more military assets that need to be moved around or transferred, right? Like everything is pretty much in position from a military perspective. And given this post from President Trump that, they were ready to attack tomorrow, that's essentially a confirmation that the military is in place, right? And that's exactly what President Trump is confirming. He says, "I have further instructed them to be prepared to go forward with a full, large-scale assault of Iran on a moment's notice, in the event that an acceptable deal is not reached." Now, again, the deal that President Trump is interested in is no nuclear weapons, right? It's a little different from Israel. What Israel is interested in is total annihilation of the Islamic regime. So, in that sense, the interests of Israel are more aligned with the interests of the Iranian people. However, I do believe that behind the scenes, President Trump is also interested in exterminating the Islamic regime. And President Trump is sort of doing the good cop, bad cop thing with Israel here. Now, here's the thing, though. The only acceptable deal for President Trump is no nuclear weapons. And that's one of the things that the Islamic regime has refused to budge on. So I really don't see how Qatar, Saudi Arabia, or the UAE are in a position to convince the Islamic regime that they should give up their nuclear ambitions. I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening in any way, shape, or form. So, what this is really telling me is that President Trump has always made it very clear that the only deal he's interested in is, unconditional surrender. And given the fact that, on Islamic regime state TV, the Islamic regime is constantly posturing and they're like, oh, we're going to, like they show videos where, they want to end President Trump's life. They talk about how nuclear enrichment is their uranium enrichment is their right. And, how, they have a right to nuclear weapon. I can't see this deal being made because this would be a huge blow to the Islamic regime. And if the Islamic regime were to accept the deal that President Trump wants, and keep in mind, part of the terms of that deal, I believe, include not only no nuclear weapons for Iran, but in previous press conferences, President Trump has said that the Islamic regime supposedly has agreed to allow the United States to go into Iran and remove whatever nuclear dust or uranium is already there. Again, I can't see that happening. I cannot see the Islamic regime agreeing to this. Now, President Trump, in his, he did have, where was it? A press conference earlier today, and there were some questions asked about Iran. And that does provide a little bit more context. So let's go here. I pulled up the Q&A portion. I haven't listened to it yet, but let's go ahead and listen and see what President Trump says when it comes to the Islamic regime, because I think that is also very telling.
Questions of these brilliant people? Yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead. Yes. The white? Yes.
Mr. President, on the IRS,
they're giving a briefing on it a little while at the mosque. They're giving a briefing, and it's a terrible situation. I've been given some early updates, but we're going to be going back and looking at it very strongly. Yeah, please.
Justice Fund created $1.7 billion that the IRS is now going to.
Wait, excuse me.
Can you speak a little bit about your pulse on Truth Social on Iran, and what was the decision that why you didn't attack it?
Well, other countries have come to me and they've said we were getting ready to do a very major attack tomorrow. I put it off for a little while, hopefully maybe forever, but possibly for a little while, because we've had very big discussions with Iran, and we'll see what they amount to. I was asked by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and some others if we could put it off for 2 or 3 days. Or should
put it off for 2 or 3 days. See?
Possibly for a little while, because we've had very big discussions with Iran, and we'll see what they amount to. I was asked by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and some others if we could put it off for 2 or 3 days, a short period of time, because they think that they are getting very close to making a deal. And if we can do that where there's no nuclear weapon going into the hands of Iran, I think, and if they're satisfied, we will be probably satisfied also. We've informed Israel. We've informed other people in the Middle East that have been involved with us. And, it's a very positive development, but we'll see whether or not it amounts to anything. We've had periods of time where we thought pretty much getting close to making a deal, and didn't work out, but this is a little bit different. Now, we're ready going tomorrow, very big, and not something I wanted to do, but we have no choice because we cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. Yeah. Please.
So, President Trump is being very clear about this. He's pretty much putting the onus on Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE, right? Because now he's saying, okay, well, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE believe that they can convince the Islamic regime to agree to the deal that President Trump wants, right? He's literally putting the onus on them, and he's basically saying the ball is in your court, and I'm giving you 2 to 3 days to figure this out. Like that's kind of a big deal. Listen to this again. Like he's not mincing words.
They're giving a briefing, and it's a terrible situation. I've been given some early updates, but we're going to be going back and looking at it very strongly. Yeah, please.
Justice Fund created $1.7 billion that the IRS is now going
Wait,
to.
excuse me.
Can you speak a little bit about your pulse on Truth Social on Iran and what was the decision?
Okay, let's go to a super chat here. So Justin Lefevre 5653 says, Goldie, the only way UAE, Qatar, Saudi would know when the strikes were planned is if Trump is coordinating with them. I just don't see him doing that. Israel, of course, but not UAE, Qatar, and Saudi. So I mean, normally I would agree with you, but again, take a look at President Trump's Truth Social post, right? Like he says, I have been asked by Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE to hold off on our planned military attack, right? So when he says our planned military attack, that leads me to believe that whatever is going to happen in the future will include the UAE at least, if not also Saudi Arabia and Qatar. What we already know is that Saudi Arabia was involved during the conflicts before the beginning of the ceasefires, and Saudi Arabia did attack certain IRGC targets. So I have to respectfully disagree with you, because based on what President Trump is saying, I have a feeling that he is actually coordinating with them. And that is because the Islamic regime has attacked the UAE, they've attacked Qatar, they've attacked Saudi Arabia, right? Now, this isn't me, I'm not like, again, like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, I don't trust the governments of these countries, because these are the same governments that have been, enabling the existence of the Islamic regime for the last 47 years. So, I mean, these are governments that up until before the conflict began were working with the Islamic regime. Like the UAE, for example, the UAE was, one of the biggest hubs for the Islamic regime to funnel money through, right? And there are so many Islamic regime officials and companies that live in the UAE, are based in the UAE. They funnel money through the UAE, right? So, like these countries are not, angels, right? Like they're definitely not in angelic. But I think what's happened here in the last little while is we've seen a geopolitical shift where, because the Islamic regime has attacked these countries, the governments of these countries have now realized that they cannot have the Islamic regime survive, because the Islamic regime poses an existential threat not just to Israel, but also to the UAE and to Saudi Arabia and even Qatar, right? Even Qatar, because ultimately there's no honor amongst terrorists, and so these countries have realized that. So I don't think that they're allying with the United States and Israel out of the kindness of their hearts. I think they've just realized that if the Islamic regime were to survive, that would pose an even bigger threat to them. So at this point, they've realized that, when it comes to the geopolitical shift, it makes more sense for the Islamic regime to go. So that's why, like I see your super chat, but again, based on what President Trump has said, I do think that there is some sort of coordination that's happening here. But let's go back to what President Trump was saying, and now that we have this context, I think his answer makes a little bit more sense.
That why you didn't attack him?
Well, other countries have come to me and they've said we were getting ready to do a very major attack tomorrow. I put it off for a little while, hopefully maybe forever, but possibly for a little while, because we've had very big discussions with Iran, and we'll see what they amount to. I was asked by Saudi.
I'm also very curious when President Trump says he's had these big discussions with Iran. I'm curious to know, who is he speaking with? Who is he speaking with? Like, is he speaking with Arabchi? Right? Like, let me pull up the Boom Boom Durka bingo sheet here. Right? Like, who is President Trump speaking with? Who is he speaking with? Curious minds want to know, because Khamenei, right? Khamenei is dead. His son, the cardboard dictator, he is in a coma, right? Or we haven't seen any signs of life. Shamkhani is dead. Shirazi is dead. And then when you go here, Larijani, right? Like, he's dead. All of these, top commanders are dead. Half the top commanders in the IRGC are dead. Raisi and Abdullahian, these guys are dead. And then these two are also dead. So, I mean, who's left? Like, we all believe that Vahidi is sort of like de facto in charge, right? Because there's currently, guys, so we're getting back into like Game of Durka here, right? Game of Durka. It's like Game of Thrones, but Islamic regime style. So in the Game of Durka, you have Vahidi, who's basically commanding the IRGC, and he's one of the people who says no diplomacy, no concessions. He wants to go forward with building a nuclear bomb, right? And then you have Ghalibaf. Now, Ghalibaf has been kicked out of the negotiation team because Ghalibaf wanted to, I guess, agree to President Trump's deal only in order to keep the Islamic regime going, right? Like, he basically wants it for his own survival. However, he was kicked out by this guy, Vahidi, because, Vahidi does not want to surrender. And then Araqchi, this guy, the, foreign affairs minister, where is he? This guy. I mean, just looking at him, like, you can tell he smells like, right? But like, so this guy has now become the mouthpiece for Vahidi, and he does not respond to the president anymore, right? Even though the president is supposed to be responsible. So Araqchi is essentially the spokesperson for Vahidi. So I'm very curious to know, who is President Trump speaking with? When President Trump says he's had big discussions with Iran, I mean, who? And President Trump, on purpose, okay? So on purpose, he's not saying who he's speaking with. And that's because he wants to play these mind games with the Islamic regime. President Trump knows that by not confirming who he's speaking with, all these various factions, like all the infighting, they're all going to be like pointing at one another, going, is it you? Is it you? Is it you? Like, who's doing the speaking here? And then again, Ahmadinejad, who's like, big important person, former president as well. Ahmadinejad is nowhere to be seen either. So we just don't know who President Trump is speaking with. And that in and of itself is a huge psychological mind game for the Islamic regime, right? Listen to this again. Listen to this.
Wait, excuse me.
Can you speak a little bit about your pulse on True Social on Iran and what was the decision that why you didn't attack it?
Well, other countries have come to me and they've said we were getting ready to do a very major attack tomorrow. I put it off for a little while, hopefully maybe forever, but possibly for a little while, because we've had very big discussions with Iran, and we'll see what they amount to. I was asked by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and some others if we could put it off for 2 or 3 days, a short period of time, because they think that they are getting very close to making a deal. And if we can do that where there's no nuclear weapon going into the hands of Iran, I think.
Yeah, good luck with that. Good luck with that, because the Islamic regime is literally broadcasting that nuclear proliferation is their Allah-given right, and that they're never going to stop trying to acquire a nuclear weapon.
And if they're satisfied, we will be probably satisfied also. We've informed Israel. We've informed other people in the Middle East that have been involved with us. And, it's a very positive development, but we'll see whether or not it amounts to anything. We've had periods of time where we thought pretty much getting close to making a deal, and it didn't work out. But this is a little bit different. Now, we're ready going tomorrow, very big, and not something I wanted to do, but we have no choice because we cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. Yeah. Please.
Justice Department has this new fund that was announced today, $1.7 billion.
Yeah.
Why should taxpayers?
Okay, so President Trump basically says, 2 to 3 days. He's giving them 2 to 3 days time. All right, let's move forward and see if there's anything else that President Trump says about the Islamic regime.
Pay for
Wasn't involved. This is they've been weaponized that they didn't have. They've gone bankrupt. It's a terrible picture. We've been things like they reimburse for their legal. Daniel, go ahead. Hold it, Daniel, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's pretty remarkable seeing you and Mark Cuban up there, and the fact that obviously Mark endorsed Kamala Harris back in 2020.
Well, he made a mistake. It was a big mistake.
What does this say about what you two are building here?
Well, it's to do, and I think Mark, Go ahead, Ebola. You said Ebola.
Yeah. Should Americans be concerned about Ebola?
I'm concerned about everything, but certainly am. I think that it's.
Wait, is there like an Ebola thing happening, guys? I'm so focused on like geopolitics and stuff. Wow. I hope there's like not an Ebola outbreak or something. Ugh.
Confined right now to Africa, and but it's something. If you'd like, over to.
Thank you. To answer, state this symptomatic of Ebola to be encounter hemorrhagic for travel entry in the region of Sudan to no cases for Americans in the region.
Go ahead on Iran. What?
Follow up on Iran. Other countries have done this before. They have asked you to change course in order to they dangled a peace deal in front of you saying one was coming. Nothing has come into fruition. You mentioned this.
Well, a lot's come into fruition. We've taken a country that was going to have a nuclear weapon, and we've virtually destroyed its military. They have no navy. They have no air force. They've been virtually destroyed militarily. That's a lot. That's a big. We could leave right now. It would take them 25 years to rebuild. And the last thing they're thinking about, I think, is nuclear. Now they have to put it down in writing. But when you say nothing, we've totally destroyed. Excuse me, from CNN. We've totally destroyed their military. We've destroyed their leadership. As you know, their leaders are gone. Their leaders are gone at the first level. The second level, we're dealing with half of the third level. And I think we've made a lot of progress.
So half of the third level. So again, going back, so this is so interesting because the first level is gone. The second level is gone. The third level, half of them are gone. So, in the game of Durka, like who's alive? Is he speaking with Ghani? Is he speaking with that? Because he's definitely, I know for a fact he's not speaking with Vahidi. I know that for a fact. So, I don't know, like Alibov. I mean, Pezeshkian is completely irrelevant and uninfluential. So it's not Pezeshkian for sure, right? So, I mean, and IRGC is a spokesperson for Vahidi. Then there's Zolqadr, right? So there's Zolqadr, Vahidi, Qalibov, Ejei, Jalili, IRGC, but IRGC is just a spokesperson for. See, guys, I don't know. So who is he speaking with? That's like the $1 million question. And that's what makes it interesting, right? That's what is keeping the Islamic regime on their toes, because they're all pointing fingers at each other, going, who the hell is speaking with President Trump?
With their leadership. As you know, their leaders are gone. Their leaders are gone at the first level. The second level, we're dealing with half of the third level. And I think we've made a lot of progress. And it's very simple. You know, we don't want to go through this. We had the greatest economy ever. We still do. The stock market at a brand new high a little while ago. I never thought that was going to happen. We had to make the excursion. You know, we hit 50,000 on the Dow. We hit 7,000 on the S&P, and everyone said that couldn't be done within my 4 years. It would be too big. Well, we did it in my first year. And then I called Scott and Howard. I called them all into my office. I said, we're going to take a little excursion down to the Middle East, and we're going to confront Iran because they are desperate to have a nuclear weapon. And the only reason they want it is to use it. And I said, I hate to do this because we're doing so well, but this is the most important thing we can do. We can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. So we did that. And when we did that, we were met with a little force, and we ended up destroying them. We now have a tremendous, we built really a steel wall where no boats to blockade, where no boats are able to, not one boat has been able to get through our blockade. Look, our military is the greatest military anywhere in the world. I just left China, and I will say President Xi was very, very complimentary of our military. He was amazed, actually, at our military. We have the greatest military in the world. We're not going to let Iran have a nuclear weapon. So I was called by these three countries, plus others, and they're dealing directly with our people and, right now, Iran. And there seems to be a very good chance that they can work something out. If we can do that without bombing the hell out of them, I'd be very happy. Please.
I have a question on weaponization.
Yeah, I don't see that. I don't see that happening. I saw this comment. I thought it was really funny. These names are harder to pronounce than my Wi-Fi password. LOL. It's true. They are. They are. Like everyone needs a lesson. So you know, you have Qalibov, and then Pezeshkian, IRGC. It's, you know, it's because a lot of them have letters in their names that don't exist in English, right? So I can see Zolqadr being pretty hard. I know a lot of reporters struggled initially with Qalibov, but you know, like Vahidi's an easy one. Vahidi's pretty easy, I guess. But yeah, the names are pretty. You know, sometimes it's difficult to pronounce. So yeah. All right. Let's go back to President Trump. And I will be tuning into Fox News as well, because I'm very interested to see what Jesse Waters has to say.
Do you believe that people who committed violence against Capitol Hill police officers on January 6th should be eligible for compensation from this DOJ fund? And are you or your family members going to be seeking compensation from that fund?
It'll all be dependent on a committee determined by a committee. Yes, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. On election integrity, so a lot of Republicans, including you, are speaking out against a massive mail-in ballot era in Maryland. Primary election.
Terrible.
How concerned are you about election
and ballots? The nature certain Florida identification. If I don't, you want to have proof of citizenship. You want to have a voter ID. You want to have all these things. But to me, maybe the worst of all, caught there. Many of them, and I know Maryland pretty well. And I would really 500. They said, "Oh, what happened?" So it's enforcement to look at. Thank Bobby. Really something. I heard about you for a long.
All right, so that's pretty much it. That's all President Trump has on Iran. Let me go to a quick super chat here. So Anio Have Israel is asking, "Hi Goldie, did not Trump need the Congress approval to resume the war? How would he proceed? Just curious. Love your channel." Thank you so much. So my understanding, so I'm not American. I am Canadian, but my understanding of the politics is that if President Trump is going to start something that's longer than 60 days, he needs congressional approval. However, what President Trump has said is that Operation Epic Fury is over, so that's done. And right now they're in Operation Project Freedom. So if President Trump, or when President Trump were to resume the attack, oh wait. Okay, I think we're getting down, and I had to take a minute to run for mayor. I'll tell you how. All right. I saw something about Senator Lindsey Graham. So
and your mom. When I got copy.
Okay, so we'll wait for that to start. But to answer really quickly, because President Trump is starting something new, he does not need congressional approval because he's not calling it a war. He's calling it, an excursion or like a military operation, or in this case, defensive measures, right? Defensive measures. So no, President Trump does not need congressional approval to resume the conflict. So I just wanted to answer that. All right, let's go. Let's see what.
Fox News alert, the president's just issued a final warning to Iran, saying the clock is ticking and the regime knows what's going to be happening soon. Sources tell Axios this: it's time for the Iranians to throw a bit of candy out. We need some real sturdy and granular conversation. If that's not going to happen, we will have a conversation through bombs, which will be a shame. In less than 24 hours, the president will be meeting with his national security team inside the Situation Room to review war plans. Generals say we're on the brink.
The president has exhibited a huge amount of patience here since the ceasefire on April the 8th. And we've tried to work a deal with these guys, and it just doesn't seem possible. And where we are, we're on the cusp of going back into military operations. When we stopped, Bill and Dana, we had 2 weeks to go, a little less than 30% of the targets. Those targets remain, but we have better intelligence now after these 5-6 weeks. So that target list is expanded. It's considerably more comprehensive.
The Iranians sent a new proposal late Sunday night, but it was only token improvements from the last offer. The same one that the president ripped up after reading just the first sentence. The White House told the Iranians thanks, but no thanks. According to sources, the pressure's on them to be responsive in the right way. But they haven't been showing us the right signs. This weekend, Iranian drones hit a nuke plant in the UAE. These people are lunatics. The president told Fortune, quote, "They scream all the time. I can tell you one thing. They're dying to sign a deal. But they make a deal, and then they send you a paper that has no relationship to the deal you made." I say, are you people crazy?
Yeah, they are. They're crazy.
Now, despite that, the president's giving them one last chance to have a come to Allah moment. Just moments ago, POTUS told Pete to take his finger off the trigger.
We were getting ready to do a very major attack tomorrow. I put it off for a little while, hopefully maybe forever, but possibly for a little while, because we've had very big discussions with Iran, and we'll see what they amount to. I was asked by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and some others if we could put it off for 2 or 3 days, a short period of time, because they think that they are getting very close to making a deal. And if we can do that where there's no nuclear weapon going into the hands of Iran, I think, and if they're satisfied, we will be probably satisfied also.
The president has firm demands. Hand over the uranium, and then and only then will Iran get any relief. If the Iranians can't agree, the president has instructed the Pentagon to be prepared to go forward with a full, large-scale assault of Iran, which could come on a moment's notice. There could be another option, the circle of death.
He wants to get the nuclear dust. There's another way to do it, and I talked to him about it yesterday. Draw a circle around where we know it's at. Call it the circle of death. Anybody goes inside the circle is going to die until we can find a way to deal with this. The goal is to make sure they can't retrieve it. They can't make a dirty bomb. They can't further enrich. Their enrichment capability has been obliterated at least for a couple of years.
The circle of death freezes their nuke program, but it doesn't open the strait. Carg Island's gone 10 days without loading up a single tanker. They're maxed out, and the wall of steel's holding strong. 85 ships have been turned around. Blockade runners aren't even trying anymore.
We now have a tremendous, we built really a steel wall where no boats, the blockade, where no boats are able to, not one boat has been able to get through our blockade. Look, our military is the greatest military anywhere in the world. I just left China, and I will say President Xi was very, very complimentary of our military.
Bessent went to France to tell our allied banks to blackball the mullahs.
We call upon all our G7 and indeed all of our allies and the rest of the world to follow the sanctions regime so that we can crack down on the illicit finance that is fueling the Iranian war machine and get this money back to the Iranian people.
It's not just the Iranians who are feeling the pressure from the blockade. It's also the Chinese. Beijing just announced their economy is in a little bit of a slowdown. Spending just hit a 4-year low, and investment in real estate are deteriorating. One analyst says, quote, the oil shock has now arrived, and it's hitting the economy harder than expected. And China's declared the frozen straits created severe conditions and are now saying publicly it needs to reopen. Everyone's getting squeezed. U.S. Treasury yields are almost at a 20-year high. That's a warning sign. This summer, there's going to be an energy crunch. We'll be all blasting our air conditioning and driving and flying to vacation. Basically, it's supply and demand at this point, and it's going to push prices higher. The president knows Americans are facing an energy shock, so he's giving peace a chance. But if the gay Ayatollah stays persnickety, 47's ready for a love tap. According to him, could be before Memorial Day. One way or the other, the street's bullish on the U.S. military getting the job done.
Does the Strait of Hormuz need to reopen almost at any cost?
It will eventually reopen. I don't know. I don't know. You're talking about the military's been planning for things like this for 40 years. They have plans. I don't know what those plans are. And I hope it works. I just don't know.
The private sector could be stepping up, too. The Wall Street Journal reports that the administration could break the stalemate by authorizing privateers to attack enemy shipping. So if you're looking for a summer job and have a sense of adventure, ahoy. And defense companies are already stepping up to the plate, deploying robo-mine hunters to the Gulf with next-generation sonar technology, clearing a wider and wider route for when the president hopefully restarts Project Freedom. And the Brits are letting us play with their toys. The Royal Navy sending us Sea Fox drones and Kraken catfish and needlefish vessels to detect and destroy mines by remote control. On top of that, POTUS is making sure our oil supplies loaded up. Oil majors like Exxon and Shell are returning to Alaska, saying the state is the world's hottest play. They say, quote, once you know what you're looking for, it's like finding balls on a dog. Doug Burgum's rocking a hard hat, and he's ready to drill, baby, drill.
Japan, our great ally, we have close to 50,000 troops there. 92% of Japan's oil was coming through the Strait of Hormuz. South Korea, we have 28,000 troops, a bunch of their dependents on the Middle East. They all want to buy more energy from Alaska. So the long-term geopolitical function and role of Alaska is immense. And of course, with President Trump, this is the biggest geopolitical shift we've seen in anyone's lifetime, away from the Middle East and moving towards the Western Hemisphere.
It takes the Japanese 35 days to get oil from the Strait of Hormuz. From Alaska, it takes him 8. And there's no pirates in the North Pacific. The president is asking for patience, but says no pain, no gain. He can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Jamie Dimon said the enemy had it coming.
They've been raping, killing, and murdering for 47 years. Why the Western world allowed proxy wars? I mean, we've learned a lesson that we should have gone years ago at the head of the snake. We should have killed the head of the snake.
The president swore not to let problems fester for the next commander-in-chief. Over the weekend, U.S. Africa Command struck and killed a top ISIS leader hiding out in Nigeria. The United States goes where the enemy goes. And when we put in the work, we deserve some R&R. The USS Ford just came home from a record-setting deployment from the Maduro raid to Iran. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth was there to greet the soldiers.
It's exceptional, phenomenal. That's why I was proud to give the Presidential Unit Citation to them for their 330-day deployment all the way around the globe. Absolute resolve, epic fury. It's an incredible story, and the only story that should be told today is of the heroism and the skill and the professionalism of these sailors.
We'd like all the boys home soon, but we understand they have a job to do. Sometimes it feels like your job is full of meetings, meeting after meeting after meeting that don't go anywhere. And then you hear you're about to go back to work and you get called into another meeting. But maybe the president's 2 to 3 day delay is another famous head fake, kind of to launch a surprise attack. We have no idea. Like usual, we'll see what happens. Chuck DeVore is a retired intelligence officer. Chuck, I was pretty sure we were going to see action this week just by the rumblings in the national security sector, the reporting, the tempo. And then at the last second, it got called off. What do you think's going on?
Well, Jesse, when I was a brigade combat team staff officer for the Army, my commander counseled tactical patience. And by that, he meant don't be in such a hurry to start the killing and be killed. Sometimes you need to wait a little bit and let things settle out, learn a little bit more about the enemy, set the conditions for victory. We have to understand that every day that goes by with this tremendous blockade in the Strait, Iran gets a little weaker and a little weaker. The people of Iran get a little more angry and a little more angry. And Jesse, perhaps even more importantly, our intelligence is busy. We're figuring out where all of those third tier people live right now and where they go to work and where they meet, so that if the air war is reactivated, a lot of bad things are going to happen to them in a very short period of time.
The circle of death sounds like a good concept, kind of a placeholder while you do negotiations or secure the Strait. Do you like that idea?
Well, it's certainly one idea out of many that I think the president is considering. I think the most important thing is that with all of our naval and air assets in region, the president has a huge menu of options that he can bring to play. I think another thing that's really important to understand is that the president, when he ran for office, did not promise no more foreign wars. He promised no more stupid wars and no more forever wars. This war against Iran certainly isn't stupid. That nuclear stockpile certainly says so. And it certainly isn't going to go on forever. I think the most important thing that the president's looking at right now is the fact that the midterms are 5.
Well, I think also, like, the forever war was started 47 years ago. President Trump is ending the forever war after 47 years.
And a 24/7 news cycle, not helpful when you're reporting something as serious as this. Operation Freedom worked. We defended against incoming drones and missiles and then wiped out those capabilities where those came from. But it was stopped after just 2 days. Do you see that restarting again to put additional pressure on the Iranians?
I certainly do. In your segment, you highlighted the tremendous work that's going on to just make triple sure that the Strait is free of any Iranian sea mines. They keep widening the path. They go back over it and recheck and recheck. This is certainly setting the conditions to reopen the Strait with a high degree of confidence that you're not going to have significant damage to a very expensive supertanker by having one of these mines go off underneath the hull, which is going to cause a tremendous amount of damage, perhaps even catastrophic damage.
Yeah, environmental catastrophe. It would just rock the insurance markets, and heaven forbid anything happened to one of our destroyers. That would not be very good. All right, Chuck, great to talk to you as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Alien species recovered, and Johnny at the Mets-Yankees game.
What are we going to do about the Chinese?
Right. Okay. So, I mean, normally I would be all over the, the alien stuff, but not really. What I found really interesting about what Jesse Waters was saying here is that he even put out the possibility that this could just be another mind game that President Trump is playing. I mean, regardless of when the attack happens, like, I'm 100% convinced that the attack will happen. It's just a matter of when. But the mind game here with President Trump's Truth Social post is that he's pretty much confirmed that all the military assets are in place and there's no more waiting around. And now what we're seeing with respect to the narrative and the rhetoric coming from the media is that this is, you know, the final chance, right? This is the final chance for the Islamic regime to surrender and accept President Trump's deal. So I find that very interesting. He's also pretty much put the onus of the deal on Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. So if Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE are unable to convince the Islamic regime occupying Iran to surrender and to accept President Trump's deal of no nuclear weapons, among other things, then President Trump is going to strike. And I have a feeling that's what's going to happen, because I don't see the Islamic regime surrendering. Not with what's going on right now with the entire Islamic regime structure in a state of chaos and disarray. However, I did find it very interesting that Jesse Waters is saying that this was possibly a ploy in some way, shape, or form. Now, there are a couple of other videos that I want to play. Senator Lindsey Graham's interview, which I have been meaning to watch for a few days now. But before that, let's go to this video from earlier, because I always do appreciate Trey's analysis. He's pretty much like spot on.
Thank you very much. With that, we bring in retired Navy Captain Brent Sadler, whose 26 years of service includes...
Oh, wait, I wanted Trey.
Very much. With that, we bring in...
Wait, where's Trey? I thought that was Trey. No? Okay, here we go.
So President Trump says the clock is ticking for Iran, urging them to come to the table before it's too late.
He spoke with Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday as the two leaders reportedly weigh resuming military action on the regime.
Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yinks is live in Tel Aviv with the latest. Good morning, Trey.
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. The Middle East remains on edge, waiting to see if the war will resume in the days ahead. President Trump overnight on Truth Social posting a new warning for the regime, saying for Iran, the clock is ticking and they better get moving fast or there won't be anything left of them. Time is of the essence. The president's post comes as reports indicate the Iranians have submitted a revised proposal to Pakistani mediators aimed at addressing some of the gaps in their previous response that President Trump described as a piece of garbage.
Therefore, from the very day after we sent our points to the American side via Pakistan, we were faced with a series of...
Oh man, guys. So, Borei, he's not on the Boom Boom Bingo sheet. So this guy is not on the Boom Boom Durka Bingo sheet because he's not high enough. He's just like a spokesperson, but he's still high enough that he's constantly on Islamic regime state TV. And he's one of the people, this guy, he's one of the people who is incredibly adamant about how and why the United States will never prevent the Islamic regime from acquiring a nuclear weapon and will never, the Islamic regime will never surrender to the United States. So, this is one of the people on Islamic regime state TV who's constantly like talking about how uranium enrichment is their Allah given right, and they have every right to build a nuclear bomb. So it's interesting that he's being shown.
From the very day after we sent our points to the American side via Pakistan, we were faced with a series of proposals from the other side, which have been reviewed over the past few days. As was announced yesterday, our own views have in turn been conveyed to the American side.
While diplomatic efforts play out, the economic situation in Iran is getting worse each day due to the ongoing U.S. blockade of Iranian ports. CENTCOM says more than 80 commercial vessels have been redirected and 4 were disabled to enforce the blockade. A senior Israeli official told Fox News that early signs are developing of a fuel crisis in Iran, with long lines at gas stations being observed. It's getting exponentially worse, that official added.
The economic situation is very, very bad. I mean, for 3 months now, the situation has completely deteriorated. Ever since these protests happened and the dollar price went up. Then, After the war started, the shop was basically closed for nearly a month, and now the situation is extremely bad.
The U.S. military buildup across the Middle East does continue, with more transport planes arriving in the region each day. Guys?
So, Trey, as they look at different operations to maybe kick this war back in, is your sense this would be more comprehensive? Strait of Hormuz, eliminate leadership, secure the uranium, not something phased or just hitting targets?
If the war does resume, we're likely looking at a scenario where there are joint U.S. and Israeli strikes hammering the Iranian regime, not just around the capital of Tehran, but also in other key areas, especially along that western coast near to the Strait of Hormuz, where the Iranians still have some smaller cruise missiles and abilities to target international shipping lanes. All of this is happening, though, amid the backdrop of a severe economic situation for the Iranian regime. As this U.S. naval blockade continues, you have Iran extracting oil at less than 50% of the previous levels. And also, their exports of goods are down 90% from pre-war levels. And this is an indication that the pressure the Trump administration is putting on the regime is working. As for the military options, we understand, according to regional sources, that President Trump has been presented with a variety of options, and these would likely include going after the remaining leadership of the Iranian regime as it relates to IRGC officials that are still ordering attacks against Gulf countries as recently as this week, and also a variety of other targets going after the storage facilities where they still have a variety of missiles in underground areas. And so President Trump has a variety of options on the table, and he will likely coordinate directly with the Israelis to ensure that the pressure is so heavy on the Iranian regime that eventually they would be forced back to the negotiating table.
That's what we're hoping for.
So, Trey, I'm just curious, is Pakistan still trying to push for...
I find it hilarious how these like morning show commentators, and they're great, by the way, like they're great, but they're not geopolitical analysts. Like they're struggling to like learn the names, learn the faces and learn how everything is interconnected. So good for them. Like it's not it's not easy. Let's put it that way.
The diplomatic option, or have they essentially accepted that they're not going to be able to bring both sides to the same point?
Yeah, mediators in Islamabad are continuing to push for a diplomatic solution. And look, President Trump wants a diplomatic solution. He wants a deal with the Iranian regime, but he wants the right deal. And the right deal includes Iran never having a nuclear weapon and exporting that already highly enriched uranium, around 60% purity, that's currently buried deep underground in the aftermath of Operation Midnight Hammer last summer. The Iranians continue to talk tough publicly, but behind the scenes are trying to get some sort of agreement together. That is the reason that you heard the spokesperson for the Iranian Foreign Ministry, even earlier today, saying that there are still conversations taking place being mediated by Pakistan, and that they are responding directly to the comments by President Trump in the aftermath of that response to the U.S. peace proposal that the president described as a piece of garbage. But the president has been very clear here, Lawrence. He is either going to get a deal that involves everything he wants, and that includes Iran never having a path to a nuclear weapon, or the bombing campaign against Iran is going to resume. And when we look back about a month, President Trump said he would go after Iran's power plants and their bridges. He understands that the United States military has the ability to systematically destroy the Iranian regime. And when you have this backdrop of the heavy economic consequences of the U.S. naval blockade, any sort of strikes in the future would make it incredibly difficult for the regime in Tehran to rebuild.
So, Trey, has the regime ever been in a situation like this? I mean, the economic situation is pretty bad there. You were mentioning shops are closing.
I mean, I can answer that question. No, the Islamic regime has never been in a situation like this. They have never been weaker than ever. Like, this is the weakest they have ever been in 47 years. And the conditions are ripe and prime for overthrowing the Islamic regime. And I really do believe that we are I really do believe that we're in the end game right now.
This one guy said his shop closed for a month, really bad fuel problems there, long lines at the gas stations. So in the past, has this caused or pushed the regime to come to the table and negotiate?
It's a great question. And in the past, under previous administrations, such as the Obama administration, when large sums of cash were released as part of the agreements reached with the president at the time, this allowed the Iranians to take pressure off of their domestic issues. And now they are feeling that pressure as a result of these actions by President Trump. There was Operation Epic Fury that destroyed much of the military infrastructure of the Iranian regime. And now you have this situation where the regime is starting to be unable to pay IRGC officials and those soldiers that are in the field that would basically be manning the missile systems that Iran uses to threaten U.S. forces and allies across the region. But also you have a situation where we're seeing these videos out of Iran of long lines for gas. The fuel crisis in Iran is getting worse each and every day. And there are questions about this leak near Takarg Island and whether or not that was a deliberate leak because the Iranians no longer have the ability to store the crude oil that they're extracting from the ground at a 50% rate. And so the situation for the Iranian regime has never been worse in the past 47 years. And if they are unwilling to make a good faith deal at the negotiating table, we expect this war to resume. And that would include more pressure militarily on the Islamic Republic.
Wow, so many moving parts. You get the sense is everything's going to happen this week with the China trip all done. Thanks so much, Trey. We'll check in with you next hour.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
Oh, wow. Look, that's my live stream. Wait, look at this, guys. My live stream is like being like shown as a recommended video after that Fox News video. That's kind of cool. Guys, I'm famous. All right. Okay, but let's go to Senator Lindsey Graham's interview. I've been meaning to watch this interview since it came out, and I just haven't had the time. So we are going to watch this together because Senator Lindsey Graham always says very interesting things. And then usually what I've noticed is that one of the people that President Trump speaks through when it comes to the Islamic regime occupying Iran is Senator Lindsey Graham. So let's go ahead and see what he has to say. Because clips of his interview were also featured on Jesse Waters that we just watched. So here's the full interview.
And joining me now is Republican Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina. Senator Graham, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here after an historic week.
Yeah.
Let's start right there with the President's Summit in China. One of the biggest issues discussed was Taiwan. Just for our viewers, it's a self-ruling democracy that China has vowed to control. Now, Congress voted to approve billions of dollars in arms sales to defend the island. But in an interview after the summit, President Trump would not commit to supporting Taiwan. I want to play you a little bit of what he had to say.
You're waiting on approving billions of dollars of weapons for Taiwan.
That's right.
Is that
I'm
moving
holding
forward?
it. Well, I haven't approved it yet. We're going to see what happens.
What are you looking
I may
for?
do it. I may not do it.
Yeah, what's your hinge point?
Well, I'm not going to say that, but I may do it. I may not do it.
Senator, can Taiwan be secure without U.S. support?
Well, I think it's in our interest to make sure they can be secure. The country, for a long time, has a one China policy. Now, what does that mean? We don't recognize two Chinas. We recognize one China with two systems. It's been the policy of the United States to help provide military aid to Taiwan. We have economic integration with Taiwan. So I want to continue that policy. Strategic ambiguity. What would we do if China invaded Taiwan? Well, we have strategic ambiguity. Trump said, President Trump, it would be up to me and me alone. And he's right about that. What can I do as a member of Congress? We'll be introducing with Senator Sullivan from Alaska, hard-hitting pre-invasion sanctions that would put tariffs and sanctions on China if they did invade Taiwan. I want China to know, if you invade Taiwan, try to take Taiwan by force, here's what happens to your economy. The full weight and measure of sanctions and tariffs from the United States will kick in on day one. That's what I want to do to deter an invasion. As to the weapon sales, if the president decides not to approve the package, I'll leave that up to him, but I hope he will be able to tell the country by saying no to the weapons package, I got an agreement with China that makes Taiwan more secure. We'll see what happens.
You want him to send the weapons, though, and does he support the sanctions package you just talked about?
We haven't talked to him about it, but I think there'll be overwhelming support in Congress to let China know. If we'd done this with Russia, if you invade Ukraine, here's what happens to you on day one, I don't think they would invade it. So let's make it clear to China, if you try to take Taiwan by force, here's what happens to your economy on day one. I'm hoping the administration would support that. In terms of weapon sales, it's up to the president. I would encourage him to make Taiwan strong so we can deter aggression. If you give an inch on China, they'll take them on Taiwan. I think they'll take a mile, but we're not looking for war. We're not looking for conflict. I want to keep the status quo.
Just to follow up on that point, President Trump warned other countries last year that when it comes to Iranian oil, quote, if you buy it, you're not doing any business with the United States. As you know, China buys 90% of Iran's oil. Are you disappointed that President Trump wasn't able to get China to stop buying Iranian oil during this summit?
Well, President Trump said, we don't need China. I'm not looking for a favor from China to help to end the Iranian conflict. But here's the soft underbelly of Iran. They're a fossil fuel economy. As to Russia, we're very close to sanctions being passed by the Congress that will allow the president to put tariffs and sanctions on the shadow fleet and any country that buys cheap Russian oil to prop up Putin that doesn't help Ukraine can be tariffed. He put a 25% tariff on India, President Trump did, for buying Russian oil. There'll come a moment here where China is going to have to be held accountable for what they're doing. And without China buying Iranian oil, their economy would collapse. So where are we with Iran? I think we've hit a wall when it comes to negotiations. Here's what the president said just a couple of days ago. Basically, I can say this with I'm not going to be much more patient. Any sane person would make a deal, but they might be crazy. The president's had it with moving the goalpost. You get a deal, the next day they wake up in the president's word. It's like we never had the conversation. So what happens next? I think we hit a wall on deal making. I would encourage the president look at reducing Iran's military capability even further. They've been dramatically weakened, but there's still targets that could weaken them more militarily.
I agree.
And I would also keep the embargo on to weaken their economy. And I'd let the Iranians know if you keep terrorizing the region, Carg Island, which is your source of revenue, will be in play. I think that would be the smart next play. You can't pursue a deal more than the people on the other side want a deal.
Let me ask you, I just want to be very explicit. You are saying you think these negotiations have hit a wall.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you saying, Senator, that you think it's time for President Trump to resume military action against Iran?
I think you can.
So, what makes me agree with Senator Lindsey Graham here? And okay, let me just go to some super chats really quickly and then I'll continue. So Bill Herman says, could he be speaking with the prince? So you're referring to President Trump possibly speaking with the Crown Prince of Iran, Reza Pahlavi. I do believe that is happening, but it's behind the scenes and no one's going to be speaking about that. We already know that the Crown Prince has spoken with Senator Lindsey Graham and has met with Senator Lindsey Graham. The Crown Prince already has a well-established relationship with Marco Rubio. So I do not believe that it is outside of the realm of possibility that the Crown Prince of Iran is in fact speaking behind the scenes with President Trump. I do think that is a possibility. William Mongrain says, send them to meet their 72 Froggins. I don't know what a Froggin is, but I'll take your word on that. Yeah, I do believe we should send the IRGC and the Islamic regime in its entirety to meet their makers, in hell, basically. Okay, and then we have from Push-Ups, do we have a new documentary day scheduled? So guys, I was actually going to do a documentary watch party tonight, but with all the breaking news, we're going to that instead because there was a lot to cover here. But I will try to schedule a documentary watch party for tomorrow if I can. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be, I guess I could do a quick plug of that. So let me just pull up the thumbnail that I plan on using. It's going to be a good one, guys. It will be a good one. So this is the, where is it? This is the thumbnail. Let me download this. Put it in my show here. All right, so this is the thumbnail that I plan on using for. Wait, where is it? That's not it. Image file. Wait, there we go. Here it is. So guys, keep an eye out because my next documentary watch party will be part 3 of Iran before 1979, democracy or dictatorship. So make sure that you're subscribed to my channel and you have your notifications turned on because we're going to go into part 3. Things get really spicy, especially when it comes to Iran before 1979. And, what happened to the Shah of Iran is, in fact, very similar to what is happening today when it comes to Trump derangement syndrome. And, for us, we Iranians, we have had people who suffer from Pahlavi derangement syndrome. So it makes, when we see the Trump derangement syndrome, it reminds us exactly of like what we have been going through with all the people attacking the Crown Prince of Iran and his father and grandfather and making up all these insane lies. Like it's all coming from the woke progressive left. It's coming from the Islamists and it's coming from the communists. And these are the same groups of people in that same ideology that today is attacking, President Trump. They're attacking the whole concept of, nationalism and patriotism, and basically anyone who, is proud of their country and their flag. You're all, accused of being fascists because, you don't support mass migration, right? Well, all of those things happened to Iran, and look what they did to our country. And even now, the Islamic regime is mass importing non-Iranians into occupied Iran in order to slowly replace the population because we Iranians, we don't support the Islamic regime. So they're bringing in like third world country, like Muslims from garbage countries. And they're importing their jihad into Iran. So yeah, wild stuff there. All right, so keep an eye out for that. I don't know. Hopefully, I'll try to do it tomorrow night for part 3, but we'll see. Tammy Eaton says, Graham never met a war he didn't like. I mean, you know what? I guess, guys, I mean, that's fair to say. I mean, former politician myself, I had a lot of haters. I had a lot of supporters. You can't please everyone in politics. But from what I have seen of Senator Lindsey Graham, I like him a lot. And, I agree with everything that he's saying, especially when it comes to Iran. And, we Iranians, we want the United States and Israel to continue booming the Islamic regime. So, I mean, on that, we're sort of allied, I guess. And then PCLU3ZF says, free Iran. Thank you. I appreciate your support. Yes, free Iran from the Islamic regime. All right, let's go back to Senator Lindsey Graham's interview. Guys, I paused at a really awkward place. I just noticed, look at her eyes. That's kind of freaky there. Jeez. All right, let's go back a little bit.
These negotiations have hit a wall.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you saying, Senator?
And I also find it really interesting that yesterday, Senator Lindsey Graham was making it very clear that he believes the negotiations have hit a wall. And today, President Trump is basically putting out there that it's up to Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar to make sure that the Islamic regime agrees to the deal that the United States want. And if Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE don't do that, then, there's boom booms. So I think that's the other sort of nuance in President Trump's Truth Social message that a lot of people are missing here, right? Because President Trump is making it clear that he's no longer negotiating with the Islamic regime, right? That's the other sort of hidden message in President Trump's Truth Social post. He is essentially saying that he is no longer the one who's sort of negotiating with the regime. It's up to Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. And if Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE can't get the Islamic regime to agree to the deal that President Trump wants, and President Trump did say, 2 to 3 days, they only have 2 to 3 days. If that doesn't happen, then the boom booms will resume. So I just wanted to share that as well. And guys, I do see all of your comments. To everyone who says, who's saying hello, welcome, hello, thank you for being here. I hope you enjoy tonight's live stream where we do a little bit of an update on President Trump and his Truth Social post and why I think this has pretty much changed the equation for the Islamic regime and why I think that the Islamic regime's days are numbered. All right, let's go to one more super chat. Push-ups. I thought Khomeini and his Aftabe gave people dignity. Haha, yeah. I mean, right. I mean, that's just, honestly, I cannot believe that people were fooled by that disgusting pedophile and his disgusting bidet. But there you have it. So it's just a combination of a whole bunch of different factors and bad things happening. Okay, let's go back to Senator Lindsey Graham.
Ask you, I just want to be very explicit. You are saying you think these negotiations have hit a wall.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you saying, Senator, that you think it's time for President Trump to resume military action against Iran?
I think you can't get a coherent answer from Iran because they can't be coherent. I think they're so disheveled now. They're so weakened. They agree to things and the next day they back up. President Trump's very frustrated. So what to do next? I think it's going to be very difficult to get a deal with the current regime. Is there any evidence they've changed? I talked to the CIA director yesterday. Is there any evidence that the crowd in charge now is any less committed to destroying Israel, going after us, the great Satan, purifying Islam? I think the answer is no. So weaken them further and you may get a deal later, but you're not going to get a deal with this crowd until you hurt them more.
So you're saying it sounds like you do support more military action at this point. Do you think that's something that will happen? Do you think it could happen in days, weeks, months?
I think the status quo is hurting us all. The longer the strait is closed, the more we try to pursue a deal that never happens, the stronger Iran gets. So my analysis is there's nothing to suggest that the people in charge now are any different in terms of the regime's goal to terrorize the world, destroy Israel, come after us. So what do you do next? You weaken them further.
Yeah.
Now, what President Trump has done has been amazing militarily, but there's still more targets to be had. And there's things we can do to hurt the energy infrastructure is their soft underbelly. If you go back to the fight, I'd put energy on top of the list.
So you're calling for strikes on the energy infrastructure, Senator?
I'm calling to hurt this regime. If you do the same old thing, you're going to get the same result. Hurt them more. Maybe they'll make a deal if you hurt them enough. But right now, I think they're trying to wait us out. I think they're playing games. And in the words of the president, I think they're crazy. I think he's right.
Senator, the goal of this, one of the key goals from President Trump, was to get their Iran's nuclear capabilities, to wipe that out. How does the United States retrieve Iran's nuclear material without sending in ground forces?
Well, hopefully you can do it diplomatically.
But don't you need to send in ground forces if you want to retrieve it, which is what we've heard Prime Minister
He wants to get
about.
the nuclear dust. There's another way to do it, and I talked to him about it yesterday. Draw a circle around where we know it's at. Call it the circle of death. Anybody goes inside this circle is going to die until we can find a way to deal with this The goal is to make sure they can't retrieve it. They can't make a dirty bomb. They can't further enrich. Their enrichment capability has been obliterated at least for a couple of years.
All right. Let me turn to the economy and the economic effects of the war, which are being felt here at home. Inflation has climbed to the highest annual rate in 3 years. Gas prices are at a 4-year high. Grocery prices are climbing. President Trump was pressed on how all of these factors impact how he views his negotiations with Iran. Take a look.
I don't think about Americans' financial situation. I don't think about anybody. I think about one thing. We cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. That's all.
Do you agree with the president that he shouldn't be taking Americans' financial situation into account when dealing with Iran?
That's his Churchill moment. When Churchill came into power, he promised blood, sweat, toil, heartache until we deal with the Nazis, who are an existential threat to the British way of life. And if Hitler had taken charge of the planet, it would have been the darkest hour in humanity. I believe Iran wants a nuclear weapon. They would use it. So does President Trump. They would use it as part of their religious agenda. They would destroy the Jewish state. They would eventually hold us hostage. So his audience, the Iranian regime, do I worry about gas prices? Yes. But President Trump's right. The biggest threat to the stability in the world is a nuclear-armed Iran. And whatever price we have to pay, we will pay. What did Churchill say? Whatever price we have to pay to beat Hitler, we will pay. Same with Iran. The good news, we're inside the 10-yard line. I think if we go back to military activity, weaken them further, then we can end this thing pretty soon.
Senator, you take me to my next question, because 70% of Americans in a new poll say President Trump is doing a bad job on the economy, the number one issue for voters, as you know. Bottom line, is it worth losing the midterms if the result is a non-nuclear Iran?
It's worth losing my job. If I had to give my job up to make sure Iran would never have a nuclear weapon, I would do it.
Would you give up the House and the Senate?
I would give up politically. The most important thing I can do with the job I've been given is to protect the American people. Now, you don't have to agree with me, but I've been this way for 20 years. I believe they're religious Nazis in Iran. If they had a nuclear weapon, they would use it. They've been trying to get one. They've been cheating. Obama and Biden were jokes when it came to containing Iran. Trump is doing something people should have done a long time ago. But here's the good news. Gas prices will come down when you put Iran in a box. Saudi-Israel peace will become possible when you put Iran in a box. The upside of dealing with Iran is enormously good, but you got to deal with them.
Senator, let me ask you about the news over.
Yeah, I mean, guys, I know gas prices are high. Imagine how much higher they would go if the Islamic regime actually managed to acquire or build a nuclear weapon, and then they basically permanently shut down the Strait of Hormuz and did not allow anyone to pass unless, you know, they provided tariffs or you know, paid a toll or a fee or something, right? This temporary increase in gas prices, it's temporary. And when Iran is free, gas prices will actually drop dramatically. So that's really important to keep in mind as well.
Senator Bill Cassidy losing his primary in Louisiana. You worked closely with Senator Bill Cassidy on a range of different issues, including a plan to replace Obamacare. He, of course, voted to convict President Trump back in 2021 in the impeachment trial. Now he's lost his seat. Are you glad that Senator Cassidy is no longer going to be your colleague, Senator?
No, I like Bill. I thought he was a great senator, but he made a political decision. He voted to impeach President Trump, which would have ruined his political life.
Yeah, and you know, Wile E. Coyote makes a good point. Gas was still higher under Biden. So everyone complaining about gas, you know, it was higher under Biden. I also don't understand why gas prices in the United States are so high when the United States doesn't get gas from the Strait of Hormuz. So if anything, this is just showing the hypocrisy of the you know, international gas companies and how they're basically taking advantage of Americans on a situation that doesn't actually impact the supply of gasoline in the United States. So I don't know. I think that kind of needs to be looked into. Like, why are gas prices in the United States going up when the United States does not rely on the Strait of Hormuz, right?
He could never run for office again. Massey's on the ballot Tuesday. He votes against Trump all the time. What's the headline? Trump strong. Those who try to destroy Trump politically, stand in the way of his agenda, are going to lose. Bill made a decision. What would LBJ do? Is it natural for a politician to go after people who try to destroy their?
Well, you know, guys, I understand that it's priced globally, but keep in mind that like in the United States, for example, you have 6 months worth of gasoline supply and gasoline contracts, right? So whatever's happening right now shouldn't have an impact on the current market prices in the United States. Anyways, it's just something to look into.
Political life. So Bill Cassie's lost because he tried to destroy Trump. Massey's going to lose because he's trying to destroy the agenda. You can disagree with President Trump, but if you try to destroy him, you're going to lose because this is the party of Donald Trump.
Very quickly, does his defeat send a message, if this is the party of Donald Trump, that there's no room in the party to break with President Trump?
No, I just talked to him a few minutes ago. We have a difference.
President Trump, you
Yeah,
talked to
just a few minutes ago. There's no room in this party to destroy his agenda or to destroy him and his.
All right, so that was pretty much what Senator Lindsey Graham was saying about that. Now, guys, this is interesting because the rhetoric in the media has shifted. And guys, Sean Hannity is going to be coming on soon. I want to take a quick health break. So let me just put something on really quick, and I'm going to take like a quick health break, and I will be right back, guys. Where is it? All right.
Talking of peace, but you know how it ends. Smiles for the cameras, deals in the light, but truth disappears somewhere out of sight. Mullahs behind it, controlling the flow. You shake hands with fire, but you already know. Still grow, dreaming of a future they don't even know. Deals at the top while the pressure runs low, and down below the fear continues to grow. Deal with the devil, you know what it costs. Promises fade while the lines get crossed. Deal with the devil, you hear their call. Voices in chains still rise and fall. Deal with the devil, don't look away. Taken day by day.
That's a pretty good song. Pretty catchy song, guys. So if you guys are not familiar with Barbod, you should definitely go and follow him on his YouTube channel. You can subscribe to his channel. That would be, really helpful for him. Let me pull up his channel for you guys. He makes some really good songs. Those of you who are familiar with Iran Revolution Live, Of course, we've played a whole bunch of his songs, but here's his YouTube account. So it's BARBOD musician, Barbod. And then if you just go to videos, you can find, oh, he has a new one called I'm Persian. Okay, we'll need to listen to these after. Anyway, so this is the one, Deal with the Devil. It's pretty good. He's got Finish the Job. He died like a rat. Angels of Liberty. I know Angels of Liberty is definitely a fan favorite. And, Act Mr. Trump. So there you go. Whole bunch of songs there. Oh, he's got the internet one is really good too. All right, let's go back to the interview that we were going to watch now. All right, and then I'm keeping an eye on Fox News because I do want to go to Sean Hannity. But General Keane is also one of the other voices that I believe is very influential when it comes to what's happening with the analysis when it comes to the Islamic regime.
President Trump has told the Iranians time is running out. According to Axios, Trump has convened a meeting in the Situation Room for tomorrow. Senator Lindsey Graham says time to finish the job.
I think we hit a wall on deal making. I would encourage the president look at reducing Iran's military capability even further. They've been dramatically weakened, but they're still targets.
See, guys, you see how good I am at the analysis? Like, I literally watch the interviews that are being played here and there on other channels. So there you go, guys. That's why when you stick with me, you always know that you're gonna get the good stuff. You're gonna get the high level analysis there. Tammy Eaton says, I do agree with Graham and President Trump on this war. It absolutely must be fought. The blue state governors are taking advantage. I agree. And, again, I want to make it very clear. I don't see this as President Trump or Senator Lindsey Graham starting a war. This is President Trump ending a war, right? Like the United States has pretty much been in sort of this Cold War with the Islamic regime for the last 47 years. And it's something that the Islamic regime started and began when they took over Iran and turned it into a 7th century Islamic hellhole governed by Sharia law. And they started chanting, death to America, right? So this is President Trump ending a war. And he's doing something that other U.S. presidents and other leaders were just too afraid to do, right? Like they were just happy to maintain the status quo. President Trump is doing something historic. So that's sort of how I see all this playing down. But yeah, I do agree with you. Like this is something that must be fought, not because Americans want this, but because the Islamic regime has brought this to your door. And the longer you delay, the worse it's going to get and the harder it's going to become to overthrow the Islamic regime. And, the regime is infiltrated into American politics and American society in various ways. So, and I've spoken about that infiltration, right? Like the civilizational jihad, and the sort of like Islamic jihadi infiltration. I've spoken about that in other previous podcasts and shows that I've done. So, make sure that you go back and look at previous episodes of the Goldie Show because that's there. And I will be speaking about it more again in the future. Of course, right now my focus has pretty much been mostly on Iran and geopolitics and the Islamic regime. But yeah, like this is really important. And one of the reasons I think that President Trump is getting a lot of pushback from the Democrats and from all the anti-war people is because a lot of them are funded by the Islamic regime, right? The Islamic regime has, especially in the last 15 to 20 years, they've infiltrated Washington, D.C. with a lot of like lobbyists and pundits and various people. And the vast majority of them aren't even Iranian, right? They're not even Iranian. So kind of scary when you think about the level of infiltration by the Islamic regime in American politics.
that could weaken them more militarily. I'm calling to hurt this regime. If you do the same old thing, you...
All right, guys, we'll probably have to actually watch this afterwards because Jesse Waters
This is as close as you're going to get. I'm not giving out myself. Did that one time, and it was a disaster. That's all for tonight. DVR the show. Sean's next. Always remember, I'm Waters. This is my world.
We'll have to go back to that after.
And welcome to Hannity. And tonight, President Trump's his patience with the weak and fractured fourth-tier leadership in Iran. It is clearly growing very, very thin. And he has made what seems to be his final offer to the rogue regime before the bombs start falling. Earlier today on Truth Social, President Trump said, in part, that the Emir of Qatar, or Qatar, however you prefer to say it, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, the President of the United Arab Emirates, all asked him to hold off on a military attack on Iran originally planned for tomorrow as serious negotiations are taking place. That will include nuclear. We're going to have much more on that situation, that development coming up. But first, tonight, the Trump administration continues to put criminals on notice that they are not playing games and are very serious about stopping violent acts after yet another teen takeover in our nation's capital led to what was a wild, chaotic brawl in a Chipotle restaurant. This was Saturday night. The U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, our friend Janine.
Yeah, to be fair, I just have to say, no brawl is real unless there's a raccoon involved. In my younger days, there was actually this like crazy fight that happened in a McDonald's. It was like a late night fight, and apparently like some homeless guy like brought out a raccoon and started like throwing this raccoon at people at this McDonald's in Ottawa.
For the actions of your children. That is the word from our good friend, Judge Janine Pirro, who is the attorney for the District of Columbia. Tonight, she is warning parents in Washington, including those from Maryland and Virginia and the metro area, that they could, in fact, face charges under federal statutes for contributing to the delinquency of minors if they don't rein in their kids.
Yeah, I think the parents should be charged. Like, why are kids out there? Like, discipline your kids.
What happened this past Saturday night at Chipotle in the Navy Yard, and what we're seeing increasingly across the district, is not only unacceptable, it is violent, it is dangerous, and it is illegal. And I am here to tell you it is going to stop.
Yeah.
It is going to stop. The judge also called for a stricter curfew while announcing the crackdown on those so-called teen takeovers that have led to numerous assaults and property destruction, including the wild brawl that you mentioned, Sean, over the Chipotle in the Navy Yard neighborhood, caught on video this past weekend. Even the city's mayor, Muriel Bowser, who supporters say frankly deserves credit for repeatedly asking her city council to enact tougher curfew restrictions, was again asking for just that on X tonight in an effort, of course, to stem all the violence. And after what happened over the weekend, Sean, it's a pretty good bet we just might get that, because I think the judge is very serious. We've seen the National Guard make things safer. More, obviously, though, needs to be done, Sean.
All right, Kevin Cork reporting in D.C. tonight. Thank you, my friend. Also tonight, horrific news earlier today in San Diego, where two gunmen opened fire at an Islamic center, killing 3 before taking their own lives. We will continue to monitor that situation and bring you updates as we have them.
Wow.
Meanwhile, the Trump administration's FBI, led by Director Kash Patel, continues to put the safety and security of you, the American people, first, racking up one major public safety win after another. I mean, these are big wins. On Friday, authorities announced that an Iraqi man accused of coordinating nearly 20 terror attacks across Europe, plotting attacks on Jewish institutions right here in the U.S., has been arrested and brought back to New York to face federal terrorism charges. According to the FBI, he and his associates allegedly planned, plotted, coordinated 18 attacks in the name of a pro-Iranian Islamist group that has taken credit for attacks against Jewish schools, synagogues, and also charities throughout Europe, as well as American, Israel, and Iranian opposition targets. But that was far from the only major win for federal authorities last week. On Thursday, the DOJ announced one of the leaders of the terrorist organization, Trende Aragua, was extradited from Colombia to the U.S. to face terrorism and international drug distribution charges following a Homeland Security Task Force investigation. And in Los Angeles, feds say they thwarted an alleged terror plot targeting a Jewish institution in that city. All right, here to break it all down, FBI Director Kash Patel. Director, I was following your posts starting late last week. I have 4 pages of incidents that you were able to thwart. We're talking about high, value targets on multiple fronts. You've been able to stop it. It's near miraculous. You've gotten 8 of the 10 most wanted criminals in the country. In Biden's 4 years in office, they only got 4 of the top 10. You've been in office a little over a year. What is going on? Are we finding the people that from the 200 countries that came into this country unvetted that have these terror ties? Is that what we're finding?
Hey, Sean, it's great to be with you. What you're finding is that President Trump has assembled the greatest law enforcement team in U.S. history under the leadership of his presidency and Attorney General Blanche at DOJ. I just want to walk through the complexity of what you just summarized brilliantly. We, the FBI, led not 1, but 2, what we call foreign transfer of custodies simultaneously on 2 separate continents in 2 separate hemispheres, where we arrested and captured and brought back the highest ranking member of Trende Aragua ever to be extradited and charged with terrorism charges. That was out of Colombia. Near the same time, we sent another FTOC, another fixed wing asset and group of FBI agents and specialists overseas to the Middle East to capture El Sadi, who is an individual who was running, as you said, a campaign of targeted attacks across Europe, 20 plus some attacks. And then he had specifically planned at the behest of Kataib Hezbollah, an Iranian terrorist organization, to conduct a flurry of attacks, terrorist attacks in New York, California, and Arizona per the indictment. We were able to go and work with our partners overseas in both locations because President Trump has the ability to allow law enforcement into places where they were never allowed before, and then bring these individuals back to face justice. But more importantly, Sean, to stop them from conducting terrorist attacks in the future and prevent them from harming American citizens. President Trump has put law and order first. He's put the national security of this country first. He talks about it every single day. And he's assembled a team that's delivering for the American people. The complexity of running one of these operations just once a year is inordinate. We did it we did 2 in, I think, 14 hours.
Can you explain in more detail who El Sadi is? He was planning to expand the operation of this Iran-backed Islamist group. What can you tell us? It worries me, and it's worried me, when Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Mayorkas were allowing in the unvetted illegals, and then the gotaways got through. We knew there were people from over 200 countries, known terrorists among that group in the country, but we didn't know where they were. I would imagine that's a top priority for the FBI. Clearly, it's working because you're catching them before things are happening. But it scares me. Do we even know anywhere near the number of people that may be connected to these organizations are in our country?
Well, this organization, specifically a foreign terrorist organization, is a terrorist organization out of Iran, Kataib Hezbollah, when it comes to El Sadi. And obviously Flores is directly tied as a senior-most member of Trende Aragua. And what we've done is clean up President Biden's open border policies. And just look at the month of December, Sean. We were able to stop 4 terrorist attacks affiliated directly with ISIS and other foreign terrorist organizations of individuals who are already in America, spanning from California to New York to Florida and North Carolina and Texas. That was just 1 month. So we are not only investigating and arresting people overseas, but we're capturing those that were allowed into our country under the corrupt policies of the prior administration and stopping those terror attacks on American soil. And we're going to keep looking for every single one of these individuals who wish to do harm to our way of life and invade our country, who got here illegally and decided they thought they could commit crimes here. It's not going to happen on President Trump's watch. And that's why we're manhunting these people around the globe, putting national security first and making sure their exploits and ties to terrorism are fully unraveled. The intelligence community and this FBI have no greater priority than that. And we are going to chase all of them down. And we have been in record numbers.
Director, let me ask you about the Western Hemisphere and influence here. We know what happened to Maduro. We see Cuba seems to be on its last legs. The president calls it the Don Road Doctrine. This Tren de Aragua leader extradited on terrorism, international drug distribution. We are now going into Mexico, Colombia, making deals with these countries. Why do you suspect that they are now all of a sudden cooperating? Because that's not something that really I've seen happen in the modern era.
This level of cooperation is only happening for one reason and one reason only, because of President Trump's leadership. He has the ability to call global leaders around the world, bring them to the table, even when some of these folks are adversaries on certain issues, and say law enforcement and the security of our citizens comes first. And when you can follow behind a leader like that, this FBI and this DOJ are able to go and do the hard work that the Biden administration just ignored. And remember, the Biden administration, when President Biden called these world leaders, they either left him on the runway or didn't even bother to pick up his phone call. So that's the difference in true leadership. And the lane for law enforcement that President Trump has created is an international lane that all these countries want to be a part of, because all of them want to help America under President Trump's leadership secure not just our citizens, but theirs. Sean, when we capture Kataib Hezbollah terrorists in the Middle East, we're safeguarding the Middle East, Canada, and North America, and the rest of North America. When we take out Tren de Aragua's senior-most leader, we're helping the Colombians down south make sure they don't have one of the worst terrorists of the worst criminal terrorist organizations on the planet in their backyard anymore. And we're going to continue to extrapolate on their networks and arrest everyone and anyone that was involved with it. Kicking open this door that President Trump has done has allowed us to capture 8 of the most violent, top 10 most wanted in the FBI's charts in 1 year. And we've been kicking down doors all over the country. Last year, we had over 100 extraditions out of Mexico alone, Sean. That's another record. 100 gangbangers, rapists, and narco traffickers are in America facing justice and not distributing the illegal fentanyl that killed so many under the prior administration.
You know, Director, I know a lot of pastors. I know a lot of rabbis around the country. Without exception, they have all upped their security level to the highest levels they've ever had to before. Why does it appear that churches and synagogues are being targeted like never before?
Because these people are pure evil. These people wish to target Americans based on their faith because they are intolerant of the way America operates. They are jealous of the American democracy that we have here, and they choose to be cowards and target us from afar based on our institutions and our houses of worship and our faith. And that's what separates America from the rest of the world. And President Trump has made that abundantly clear. They're targeting us because they think they can, but they're the actual weak ones. And they're the ones that we're arresting in record numbers, and we're going to continue to do so. We are not going to tolerate any acts of violence whatsoever, especially terrorist act of violence based on radical ideology and misplaced faith.
You know, Americans deserve law and order and safety and security. Obviously, you're doing an incredible job. The numbers do speak for themselves. FBI Director Kash Patel, thank you. Now, the left is continuing to play games with ICE funding.
Okay, so really quick, to answer a few questions. No, Kataib Hezbollah was not linked to my case. I mean, not that I know of. Mine was something called like Handala or something, the Handala hack group, which is another Arabic Muslim terrorist group funded by the Islamic regime. And that's the thing, like they call all these groups like Iran backed. No, they're not backed by Iran. They're backed by the Islamic regime. And if you notice, like even in like the report they were giving, this Iraqi Muslim dude who's part of this terrorist organization in Iraq that's funded by the Islamic regime using the stolen blood money of Iranians, he was also targeting Iranians who speak out against the Islamic regime, right? So this is why we Iranians say that the Islamic regime is a foreign occupation, because even the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is not Iranian. There's nothing Iranian about them. They're a whole bunch of like, I mean, the Handala group could be linked to Kataib Hezbollah. I mean, I don't know, but it probably is. I mean, these groups are all linked, right? I haven't looked into it that much. because they're all Durkas to me, like they're all terrorists and they just all need to be like destroyed and annihilated. But yeah, so like this is the problem, right? This is the problem so this is why we say Iran is occupied by a foreign occupation, right? Because the Islamic regime is not native to Iran. I actually saw an Instagram post today, and it was so good. Like it really hit the spot with how to describe what is happening in occupied Iran. So let me actually find this, because this was like the perfect way of explaining what's happening in Iran. Where is it? I liked the post. I liked the comment. Where is it? Here we go. Okay. So I'm keeping an eye on Fox News for when it goes back to like stuff about Iran. But okay, look at this, guys. Look at this. Like, this is wild.
Explain our situation to other people is by using the movie The Lion King. I mean, think about it. We want a proud, peaceful indigenous race who live within their rightful land. And one day, through deceit, bitter and jealousy, the king gets overthrown. Long live the king. And this new leader introduces occupiers to take over the land and force the indigenous people to follow under their rules, mocking their laws, destroying their traditions, and degrading their women. And one day, as they grow older, they realize the truth and they find themselves again, just like Simba did. And the payback is going to be beautiful when we do get our freedom again. Hakuna Matata. I just realized a much easier way to explain.
Guys, it's so true. It's so true. They like the Lion King, like the Disney movie The Lion King is the perfect analogy for what's happening in Iran. The hyenas came. The hyenas are the foreigners, right? The foreign Islamic regime. They came, they, basically got rid of our Shah, and they imposed their own laws on us Iranians, on the natives, and they're forcing us to live under their rule. And the crown prince is in exile, and anyway, so so very, very good analogy. So the Lion King is probably the best way to kind of like describe how things are going, right? So I just wanted to share that. That's a very good analogy here. Okay, so Sean Hannity still hasn't gone back to Iran. So let's go to the Senator Lindsey Graham interview. And then when Sean Hannity goes back to Iran, I will 100% switch over to Sean Hannity. But I did really want to watch this interview by General Keane.
President Trump has told the Iranians time is running out. According to Axios, Trump has convened a meeting in the Situation Room for tomorrow. Senator Lindsey Graham says, time to finish the job.
I think we had a wall on deal making. I would encourage the president look at reducing Iran's military capability even further. They've been dramatically weakened, but there's still targets that could weaken them more militarily. I'm calling to hurt this regime. If you do the same old thing, you're going to get the same result. Hurt them more. Maybe they'll make a deal if you hurt them enough. But right now, I think they're trying to wait us out. I think they're playing games.
Who's Rafiki? Oh man, I don't know. Who would Rafiki? Oh, Rafiki would be Manuk Khodabakhshian. Manuk Khodabakhshian was the Iranian guy who was he was really old. And he made all these videos. He was an amazing geopolitical analyst. He passed away in 2019. But pretty much everything that he was saying at that point is pretty much coming true. So I would say it would be Manuk Khodabakhshian.
And in the words of the president, I think they're crazy. I think he's right.
Well, retired four-star General Jack Keane joins me now. General, a meeting in the...
You think Morad Vaisi would be Rafiki? I mean, I guess Morad Vaisi could be Rafiki. No, I don't see Morad Vaisi as Rafiki. I don't see Morad Vaisi as Rafiki. I don't know. All right. Now I'm distracted. All right, let's watch this.
President Trump has told the Iranians time is running out. According to Axios, Trump has convened a meeting in the Situation Room for tomorrow. Senator Lindsey Graham says, time to finish the job.
Guys, so this is important. Like, President Trump is meeting his team in the Situation Room, right? Like, I'm pretty sure President Trump is not meeting with his team in the Situation Room to talk about, I don't know, like what kebab recipe they enjoy the most, right?
I think we hit a wall on deal making. I would encourage the president to look at reducing Iran's military capability even further. They've been dramatically weakened, but there's still targets that could weaken them more militarily. I'm calling to hurt this regime. If you do the same old thing, you're going to get the same result.
Guys,
Hurt
this
them
interview was
more,
from like
maybe
2 hours.
they'll make a deal
3
if
hours.
you hurt them enough. But right now, I think they're trying to wait us out. I think they're playing games.
Yeah, someone was asking when this particular interview is from. This is Fox News Business posted this a couple of hours ago, so this is pretty recent.
And in the words of the president, I think they're crazy. I think he's right.
Well, retired four-star General Jack Keane joins me now. General, a meeting in the Situation Room tomorrow. It's been called for by the president. Would you urge Trump to take military action now and look at it in the Situation Room?
Was this yesterday?
No, absolutely. I think the president is exhibiting enormous patience here. Almost 6 weeks now, we've been under the ceasefire, and we went to it, obviously, with the intent that we can make a deal with the Iranians. But I think what their objective has been, one is to get the ceasefire to stop the war on the promise of a deal, and then two, to drag it out as much as possible to put as much political, economic pressure on the president. I think they're still about doing that now, as they're trying to negotiate through the Pakistanis with us, you know, that they're still interested in a deal. I don't believe it. I don't think they ever have been. I think it's mostly just about dragging this out so that the president at some point, because of that political economic pressure, just ends the campaign and says we then declares victory as opposed to going back and finishing it. So where are we? I think we're going to go back and finish it. I think that's where we are because the president recognizes where the Iranians are. They're not going to make a substantive deal. And listen, it's during this almost 6 weeks, our intelligence on targeting has obviously improved. Not only that, we're flush with munitions to be able to accomplish the mission. So we had about 2 weeks left in the campaign, Stuart, when we stopped. You know, close to 30% of the targets still remain. We've got to finish that. That's reducing the weapons that they have, obviously, to include dismantling nuclear weapons kinetically. And also, it means dealing with the realities of their support for their proxies and making certain that that's not going to be there. And we're going to work heavily on the organizations that sustain the regime, the IRGC, the Law Enforcement Command, the Baji Militia. We have better targeting on that over the next 6 weeks. I think the last thing we're going to see is a grouping of targets that really take as much of the revenue sources, Stuart, away from the Iranians that they have. Obviously, we're blocking Cargallen and no exports, but there's other things that are moving out by road, et cetera. We're going to take those industrial capabilities down to make certain, I think when we end the campaign and we open up the Straits of Hormuz, we have put the regime in a position militarily and economically to collapse. And hopefully we're using the CIA and the Mossad here also to undermine the regime and also to assist the Iranians in.
I was on mute. So when he says, you know, did you see how he's referencing the CIA and Mossad working to undermine the regime by helping the Iranian people? That may involve arming the Iranian people, right? Because I think that perhaps one of the elements here is arming the Iranian people to make sure that they have a fighting chance, right? So, because in January 8 and 9, millions and millions of Iranians went to the streets to overthrow the regime, but they were peaceful and they were unarmed. And within the span of 2 days, the Islamic regime mass slaughtered over 40,000 innocent unarmed Iranians. So Iranians for 47 years have tried to overthrow the regime. It's just they're unarmed, and the regime is brutal and ruthless because it's an occupying foreign invasion. They're not Iranian. They don't consider themselves Iranian, and so for them, they don't care about Iranian lives, right? Because they see us more as a nuisance than anything else.
Resistance to that,
right? So that's
also to assist the Iranians in there to collapse, and hopefully we're using the CIA and the Mossad here also to undermine the regime and also to assist the Iranians in their resistance to that regime. I think that's where we are.
Right? To assist the Iranians in their resistance to the regime. Petito's doing great. Hopefully he'll be able to join us at some point in the future. He has some interesting updates for us. So yeah, I'm trying to see when I can coordinate with Petito to have him come on and give all of us some updates from inside occupied Iran.
And kind of comprehensively, that's about what we intend to do.
But is action imminent? I mean, the president clearly running out of temper, running out of patience. He's convened the meeting in the Situation Room. Can't we assume that action is imminent?
Well, I think I have no idea when it would be, nor would I ask. But certainly, I think it's nearer rather than later. That's for sure.
I'll leave it at that.
And obviously, I think that meeting is pretty pivotal. You put your finger on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next one. China reportedly told President Trump that they will not be providing any material support.
Now let's go to Sean Hannity. I want to see what he's saying.
Not free. But the city's mayor, Zoran Marxist Kami Mamdani, he is moving ahead with another one of his socialist dreams, city-run grocery stores. There are new plans for 2 of them to be open next year. By the way, for the record, let me stop here.
Okay. Jeez. Only in New York, right? Okay. Oh, let's go to Super Chat from KP. Goldie, I believe Trump's current plan is working out perfectly. Imagine, people that know Trump keep throwing out there, I think this. Imagine being the IRGC. You know it's making them nuts. Listen, I agree with you 100% on this. I believe that a lot of this is psychological games as well. And again, President Trump's Truth Social post from earlier today made it very clear that they're ready to go. And the Islamic regime only has a few more days left, pretty much.
To Iran. Listen to what U.S. trade report to Iran. China reportedly told President Trump that they will not be providing any material support to Iran. Listen to what U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer said about that.
When the president went in, he did not go in asking them to take action in the Straits of Hormuz. He was very focused on making sure that they didn't provide material support to Iran. That's a commitment he obtained and confirmed. The Chinese have a clear interest in having those straits open. Again, I was in these meetings, and that's what the Chinese said. They want to make sure no one is there imposing a toll. The president isn't seeking to have joint military operations with the Chinese, but obviously we want to make sure that they're not getting in the way of anything we're doing to try to clarify that situation.
Well, General, do you believe that China will abandon Iran?
Absolutely not. Iran, what China wants out of this is some kind of negotiated settlement, and the reason they're interested in that is the regime survives. And a negotiated settlement would finance the recovery. There's going to have to be some release of frozen assets, some release of sanctions, which will give them the money and the wherewithal to continue on. That's what China wants. They represent to China their major foothold in the Middle East, and they certainly do not want to give that up. Now, they have provided intelligence to the Iranians. If they're not going to do that anymore, I think that remains to be seen. They have provided solid fuel for the missile program that has really enhanced the Iranian capabilities here, and other components as well. And hopefully they will abide by the deal that they made with the administration. We know, and you have pointed out on this show, that the first deal we made in the initial administration, China reneged on a lot of the substance of that deal, only providing half of the trade imbalance in terms of purchase.
Okay. Ron Hamill says, just like IRGC, I don't trust what China says. I agree. The Chinese Communist Party is not at all trustworthy or reliable. I actually made a video on YouTube. I posted it, I think, yesterday. Sorry, the days are like blurring now. But if you haven't already watched it, on my YouTube channel, I have a video called Trump's China Visit Was Not Appeasement. Here's why. I would suggest that you guys go and take a look and watch that because I sort of lay out my thoughts on why President Trump took certain people with him to China. And I believe it was because President Trump was sending a message not just to China, but also to Russia, to NATO, to all the other countries, and to their American enemies and allies, and of course American voters, that the United States is still the global superpower. And the very fact that President Trump took Marco Rubio with him, even though Marco Rubio was sanctioned, and he basically forced China to accept Marco Rubio. And then there's, that the clip of President Xi Jinping shaking Marco Rubio's hand while President Trump looks on. And then afterwards, Rubio looks at Trump and, kind of like winks at him. That tells you everything you need to know. So yeah, I don't think anyone trusts China. I mean, I certainly don't. And I don't think President Trump trusts China either. Neither does Pete Hegseth. Neither does Marco Rubio. And neither does Scott Bessent as well. So yeah, no, I 100% agree with you on that super chat. I don't trust anything that China says. I mean, not Chinese people. I mean the CCP, right? I want to make that very clear. Okay. Thank you for the super chat. All right, let's continue.
Purchasing of U.S. goods, etc. Maybe this time they're going to fulfill their commitments. They haven't fulfilled them in the past. It remains to be seen, I think, and a little healthy dose of skepticism here is probably appropriate.
A healthy dose of skepticism. Yes, sir. I'll remind you of that. Thanks very much for joining us, General Jack Keane. Always a pleasure. Thanks very much, sir.
Okay. I'm still waiting for Sean Hannity to go to the Iran topic if he does, but there's some interesting updates on Fox Business News. Like, look at this one. This one's pretty much featured. This one just came out like 2 hours ago.
U.S. military was this close to another bombing campaign on Iran. But today, President Trump giving the regime one last chance, announcing on Truth Social that he has canceled a scheduled attack on Iran tomorrow at the request of various leaders in the Middle East, citing, and this is a quote, serious negotiations now taking place.
But he is instructing his top brass at the Department of War to, quote, be prepared to go forward with a full, large-scale assault of Iran on a moment's notice.
Wait, what's this breaking news from Sean Hannity? Wait. Well, that's nothing. Okay, something about Luigi supporters? Okay.
In the event that an acceptable deal is not reached. This decision comes after a weekend of huddling with his national security team on next steps and rejecting Iran's latest proposal, telling the New York Post today that he is not open to any concessions for Tehran.
Joining us now, former CIA station chief Dan Hoffman. Dan, always a pleasure to see you. Is another assault by the United States avoidable at this point?
Well, I think we've seen no evidence whatsoever that Iran is willing to come to the negotiating table and do so in good faith about their nuclear program, the highly enriched uranium, roughly 1,000 pounds that we'd like to get access to and remove from the country, what's left of their ballistic missile and drone programs, and of course, their long, decades-long support, material support for proxy terrorists. Those are the things that the JCPOA never really addressed. There were sunset clauses for the nuclear program and nothing whatsoever about the ballistic missile program or Iran's terrorism. So the Trump administration will be judged ultimately on whether we get a better deal than the JCPOA. And I think the president understands that he needs to induce Iran to come to the negotiating table. He's giving Iran one more day, but I don't see any evidence that we're going to be able to avoid additional military strikes. Now, what those strikes entail, are they just further decapitation strikes? So we remove the leaders who don't want to come to the negotiating table in the hope that maybe the next batch would, or whether there are more extensive strikes on Iran's security facilities or their weapons facilities. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm sure the president's being briefed by his national security team and asking the CIA about our intelligence and what might induce Iran to change their behavior.
Dan, I'm going to get back on my Project Freedom hobby horse. I've been riding this for a few
Yeah, you have.
And I just think if you want to really change the game there, get the strait moving for everybody but Iran. It takes away all their leverage, but we seem to have thrown that out the window for these negotiations, and I'm not hearing a lot of talk about it coming back. Do you think there's any chance that's going to be a centerpiece or a big part of what the president has planned next?
I think it has to be, and you're absolutely right. We need to own escalation dominance in the region, and right now we don't. Iran has interrupted the flow of goods, especially oil, but not just oil, fertilizer and other things that are important for our economy through the Strait of Hormuz. And they've disrupted the global economy. And so we need to reopen the strait, and how we go about doing that. Unlikely, I think, that we'll do it through negotiation, because we need to keep the blockade on, as you said, to pressure Iran. But we need the strait to be open, and it may take quite a bit of input and U.S. military assets on the ground to make that happen if it comes to that.
Your expertise of many, but I'd say the primary one might be Russia. And Dan, the U.S. issued its third temporary waiver on Russian oil sanctions just a few hours ago. And this is just to keep the oil flowing. We understand that. But how does that potentially help Russia and even hurt Ukraine?
Well, it helps Russia, and it hurts us not just in Ukraine, but it hurts us in the Middle East. Look, it's very clear how this century's axis of dictatorships, that's Russia, Iran, North Korea, and China, are aligned against us, the United States, and our Western allies, not only in Ukraine, but in the Middle East as well. Russia and China want to reduce or eliminate altogether U.S. influence in the Middle East, and their principal ally there is Iran. And so by giving Russia this waiver, we're allowing them.
All right, let's go back to Sean Hannity. Let's see what's going on there.
Thompson was back in court as a judge ruled key evidence can be used in the murder trial, including a gun found in Mangione's backpack and notes.
That's just like the weird, that's like the weird murderer guy that like the woke left is like fawning over or something. So gross. I can't believe like there's like women who are like cheering him on. Like they're literally cheering on a murderer. It's disgusting. Messed up people.
And even hurt Ukraine.
Well, it helps Russia, and it hurts us not just in Ukraine, but it hurts us in the Middle East. Look, it's very clear how this century's axis of dictatorships, that's Russia, Iran, North Korea, and China, are aligned against us, the United States, and our Western allies, not only in Ukraine, but in the Middle East as well. Russia and China want to reduce or eliminate altogether U.S. influence in the Middle East, and their principal ally there is Iran. And so by giving Russia this waiver, we're allowing them to increase their total revenue that they can use not just on their war in Ukraine, but as needed to project power in other parts of the world.
Dan Hoffman.
And it's a point of leverage that, frankly, we're giving up.
We appreciate your expertise.
So there was that. Now, guys, look at this. This is interesting because I think earlier a few of you were asking me about President Trump and Congress and how President Trump can restart another war. So an hour ago, President Trump posted this image, posted a screenshot of what Mark Levin wrote on X, on his Truth Social. So this is what President Trump is sharing. The truth about war powers, declaring war, making the war constitution, and the War Powers Act. Fact, no president of either party has accepted the constitutionality of the 1973 War Powers Act. Every president has viewed it as a violation of the separation of powers. The president's Article 2 plenary power to run foreign policy and his authority as the commander-in-chief. Fact. The Supreme Court has never ruled on the Act's constitutionality and likely never will. Indeed, Congress itself is split on the issue, with Democrats supporting Democrat presidents and Republicans supporting Republican presidents. The War Powers Act is nothing but a political tool used by members of Congress, typically against a president of the opposite party. And their arguments mostly switch from one side.
Toward a possible peace deal, but make no mistake, the president warned the U.S. military remains ready to launch a, quote, full large-scale assault if a deal is not reached. Here with reaction, former special envoy to Ukraine and Russia, Keith Kellogg, is with us. What's interesting about this, it was scheduled for tomorrow. What's interesting are the countries that were asking him. Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia. They're saying a deal that includes nuclear dust is real. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Sean, thanks for having me. Look, President Trump's the most reasonable guy in the world, and frankly, I don't trust the Iranians. Look, I go back to the 9 principles of war that have been around since 500 BC. One of them is simplicity, and I'll make it simple. You don't have to invade Tehran or invade Tehran, or go to Tehran or invade Iran, but you got to take some key terrain. And I'm one of those believers who take a place like Karg Island, which is an island 16 miles offshore. It's 90% of their economy. You start to strangle them. You start to put them in a position where they really can't pay their the Revolutionary Guards and everybody like that. Then move further to the east with the Iraq Island. Take that. That's kind of the hub of the transit in the Strait of Hormuz. Just make it painful for them, and you can do a lot of things once you've got it. But I'll tell you, Sean, very honestly, I'm kind of done with negotiations with these guys. These guys keep pushing the president, delaying, and I think they're just trying to play a game right now. And the one thing I would advise them against is playing games with President Trump. He doesn't play those games. He doesn't know how to do it. He does not know how to do it. He won't do it. And frankly, when I talk about this, it's like you can bomb a nation forever. You can pulverize it from the air. But sooner or later, you're going to have to do it like the Roman legions were before. You put your soldiers in the mud. And that means taking terrain, key terrain. It does not mean an invasion. It doesn't mean a prolonged ground war. But it does mean taking strategic key terrain and force the theocratic government of Iran in a position where they have got to make a deal with you. They got our phone number. Give us a call. Until then, no negotiations.
Yeah, I think the president's at the end. It's very clear. Anyway, General, appreciate you being with us as always. When we come back, Spencer Pratt reveals what he will do if he becomes and wins the Los Angeles mayor.
Was that it? That was really short. That was really short. There's not a lot of info coming out. That makes me very suspicious. Something's not adding up. Something's not adding up, because why would President Trump attack on a Tuesday anyway? Like, every single time that the United States has initiated a military operation against the Islamic regime, it's always been on a Saturday. It's always been on a Saturday. Like, why would it even be a Tuesday? Right? I think there's more happening behind the scenes than people realize. But all right, let's go back to this post, because President Trump shared this. Shared this post. Okay. So let's continue. Okay, let me just start from the beginning. The truth about war powers, declaring war, making war, the Constitution, and the War Powers Act. Fact: no president of either party has accepted the constitutionality of the 1973 War Powers Act. Every president has viewed it as a violation of separation of powers. The president's Article 2 plenary power to run foreign policy and his authority as the commander-in-chief. Let me fix this here. All right. There we go. What's going on? Okay. There we go. And his authority as the commander-in-chief. The Supreme Court has never ruled on the act's constitutionality and likely never will. Indeed, Congress itself is split on the issue, with Democrats supporting Democrat presidents and Republicans supporting Republican presidents. The War Powers Act is nothing but a political tool used by members of Congress, typically against a president of the opposite party, and their arguments mostly switch from one side to the other, depending on who is president. Fact: the first draft of the Constitution provided that Congress would have the power to make war. The delegates at the Constitutional Convention rejected that language and changed it to declare war, intentionally watering it down because they did not believe a body with numerous members was institutionally capable of making such decisions. Fact: to declare war does not result in making war. Example: if Congress were to declare war and a president refused to accept such a declaration, Congress cannot force the commander-in-chief to execute such a war. Right? So he's making a difference between make war and declare war. Congress declaring war, which it has done a mere 11 times, mostly during World War II, or as, Ilhan Omar would say, mostly during World War XI, right? Since the nation's founding, is essentially the highest means by which it can proclaim its support for a war. It is not a condition precedent to making war and has never been. Fact: the only power Congress has to prevent a military operation is the power of the purse. That said, a president who, as commander-in-chief, has authorized military action will not sign such a bill, for it is intended to prevent what he has already commanded. Therefore, Congress would need a 2/3 majority of both houses to override his veto. In other words, a president has broad power to take military action. Fact: other than the vice president, the president is the only federal official elected by the entirety of the people. In addition to the institutional impossibility of war powers and decisions in the hands of a multi-member body like Congress, the president is the only official who was elected to, among other things, serve as commander-in-chief. There you go. There is some excellent analysis from the great one, Mark Levin. And interesting that President Trump shared this on his Truth Social post on his Truth Social account about an hour ago, right? So it's pretty obvious, it's pretty clear that President Trump has war on the mind, war on the brain. Kind of goes in line with, I think, one of the questions one of our viewers had earlier about whether or not President Trump needs congressional approval. No, he does not. However, war is 100% on his mind. And I feel like we're seeing all the signs there. All right, so I'm going to end the live stream soon. So if anyone, has any questions, I'm going to go through the super chats, and then after that, I'm going to end tonight's live stream. So Super Backer says, I think President Trump is stalling all this time so countries that support the regime will run out of jet fuel and fertilizer, draining the swamp. Thank you, heart. That, you know what? That is a very, very good point that you're making there. Oh no, means like early stream end. Guys, I've been streaming for 2.5 hours, but I mean, if people have questions, I'll try to stay on a little bit longer. But going back to super backers, you make a very good point, and I do believe that President Trump's trip to China is part of the equation, right? President Trump went to China to basically tell Beijing that they cannot rely on the Islamic regime anymore, and that they cannot go against or try to sneak around the sanctions that have been imposed by the United States on the Islamic regime. So President Trump's China trip, I do believe, was one of the key factors in the next steps, right? Because China has, and China is not going to, China's not going to go to war to support the Islamic regime, right? Like, that's never going to happen. But China has been taking advantage of the Islamic regime. And, China has benefited economically from the existence of the Islamic regime 100%. So absolutely, that China trip was a part of it. And what you're saying here could very well also be a part of that. I mean, I think there are a number of factors here, right? One of the main factors was getting all the military assets in place. However, now we know, based on President Trump's previous Truth Social post, where was it? Bookmarks. It was, based on President Trump's earlier Truth Social post from today. President Trump is pretty much confirming that the military is in place and there's nothing else that really needs to be done. And he even says, oh wait, that's not the one. Wait, where is it? Here we go, this one. Where he says he's instructed Pete Hegseth to be prepared to go forward with a full large-scale assault of Iran on a moment's notice, right? So everything is ready to go on a moment's notice. Here, let me change the screen so you can see that there. So everything is pretty much in place. Maybe President Trump just wants to tie up a few loose ends. Again, it's just, to me, it's very weird that this is happening this way, right? I don't think President Trump was planning to attack on Tuesday anyway, because usually he waits for when the markets close. So I think this is him sending a message. This is him sending a message to the Islamic regime, your time is up. And that seems to be the rhetoric and the narrative that we're hearing in, from reputable media outlets, where they're all calling this President Trump's final warning, the final notice, right? So there seems to be a finality to everything here that is going on. But thank you so much for the super chat, super backers, and for your thoughts on that. James says, Goldie, Trump is doing a sleight of hand. Look here, when in reality, I hit you there. Trump is busy making the IRGC look at a different place when he hits them at a different time. I agree. And this has been President Trump's strategy the entire time. I mean, that's exactly the strategy that he took back in the summer when he said that he's going to make a decision within 2 weeks as to whether or not to get involved. And then, after he said, I'm going to make a decision within 2 weeks, the United States literally boomed and destroyed the Islamic regime's nuclear facilities 24 hours later, right? That was back in the summer. And then, of course, this year in February, on February 27, once again, President Trump said that, he's not happy with the way things are going, but he's currently in talks. And, and then he said, let's see how the negotiations continue. He said that, and then 12 hours later, Khamenei was dead, right? So I agree. Like, this is, President Trump is putting people on notice, but I mean, I think it's important, and Mahir Tusi says this best, take him seriously, but not literally. So this is all part of the psychological warfare that's going on with the Islamic regime. I mean, it is unfortunate that the Iranian people are stuck in the middle, because, of course, the Islamic regime is taking out all of their frustrations on the innocent Iranian people, right? The people who have been held hostage by 47 years. So the Islamic regime is torturing, raping, murdering, and executing Iranians every day. So, it is a pretty dire situation, especially from a humanitarian perspective, because every day that passes, more and more innocent Iranians are being murdered by the Islamic regime. But I try to put like my personal feelings aside when I'm analyzing these things, which is, it's difficult to do for a lot of people, because when you're doing sort of a geopolitical analysis, you have to put your personal feelings aside in order to look at the bigger picture. And, geopolitics is geopolitics. So, but I have not forgotten about the humanitarian aspect of it. And, the reason that I have been so involved in raising awareness about Iran and the Iranian Revolution is 100% because of the humanitarian aspect of it, right? And human rights and freeing Iran. But, when it comes to my geopolitical analysis, I look at it, sort of from a neutral, sort of unbiased lens, at least as much as I possibly can. Thank you so much, James. Okay, now we have another super chat from Cat Not. Off topic, can wait. Curious why Canadians allow government to ban guns and go door to door collecting everyone's guns. What about all the predators, grizzlies, wolves, polar bears? What's to prevent an Islamic Republic of Canada seizing control like 1979? I feel like we're already kind of there. I feel like Canada has pretty much become the Islamic Republic of Canada with all the jihadi Islamist nonsense that's going on. Keep in mind, guys, for those of you who don't know my origin story, I was a Canadian politician. I was a provincial politician in Ontario with the provincial Conservative Party. So, basically, like, I was like a state level politician for 7 years. And then I spoke with Tommy Robinson 2 years ago. And the various Muslim groups in Canada didn't like the fact that I spoke with Tommy Robinson about Iran and about the Iranian people's fight to overthrow the Islamic regime. So they complained and accused me of Islamophobia. And then the Conservative Party, or Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario, kicked me out of the party for Islamophobia, for the crime of speaking with Tommy Robinson, because apparently I pissed off all the Muslims because I spoke with Tommy Robinson. So yeah, Canada's pretty much become the Islamic State of Canada these days. So it's already pretty much a shit show in Canada. All the politicians pretty much bend over and take it up the rear for all of the various Muslim jihadi groups in Canada. So yeah, blasphemy laws are alive and well because apparently now Muslims in Canada can dictate who you can and cannot speak with. So there you go. With respect to the gun ban, I mean, that's something that the Liberal government has done. And the Liberal government has been in power for over 10 years. So yeah, like they're starting to limit more and more guns. I think like you can still have like hunting rifles and stuff, but you have to get them from like a certified gun store or something. So like it's not like the United States. Like I've been to like a Walmart. So I went not this summer, but the previous summer, I went to a Walmart in Colorado, and no, I don't know if it was Walmart. It was, can't remember. It was like some store. It was like some sort of like a department store. It was like a department store, maybe like a sports store. I think it was like a sporting outdoor store. Anyways, I walked in and there was like a whole section that was literally just guns. And I was just like, what? And like you could just go up and you could like just like pick up like a rifle and you could like, hold it and like test it out. Not like shoot, but like test it out or whatever. And they even had like these like pink rifles and stuff. So it was wild. It was wild. Like you don't see stuff like that in Canada, right? Like you can't go into like some sort of department or sporting store and stuff. And yeah, you definitely need like a license or whatever in Canada. I mean, I don't mind having like good and proper gun laws. But what's really stupid about the Canadian gun laws is that when you look at the crimes, like gun violence, it's hardly ever like a legal gun owner, right? It's usually like they're handguns that are smuggled in and they're part of the black market or whatever the case might be, right? So the issue isn't necessarily legal gun owners. The issue is the criminals, and the criminals are not legal gun owners anyway. So, I mean, the Liberals have literally lost the plot there with that. But yeah, there's my little rant about Canada. Push-ups. Maybe one day we can read all of Jean J. Kirkpatrick's Dictatorships and Double Standards on here together. It explains Carter and how we got here. Yeah, absolutely. You know what? Let me make a note of that, and I would be more than happy to do a live stream where we talk about that. And I will. How long is it? This isn't like a 3,000 page document or something, is this? Let's see. Jean J. Kirkpatrick. Dictatorships and Double Standards. That sounds really interesting. Thank you for the suggestion. That's definitely something that's like right up my alley. Okay. And this is May 18. All right. Thank you so much for that suggestion, Push-Ups. I will definitely look into that Definitely seems like something that fits right in with my channel and the live stream. Kitty Be Good, can you play my song Once Things Kick Off? It's called Javid Shah Free Iran on my YouTube channel. Yeah, absolutely. You know what? Let me go and do something for you. Why don't I add your song to the Iran Revolution Live playlist so everyone can see it? So here we go. So guys, this is Kitty's channel, and here's a song called Javid Shah, and I'm gonna add this to the playlist here. So let me put the link and let me share the link with all of you guys, so that you guys all have it in case you guys want to go and check it out. Let me just add it to all the destinations. And I'm also going to add the song to the Iran Revolution Live playlist. And that way everyone can go and refer to it over there as well. Okay. Oh wait, this is the one. All right. So, saved playlist. There we go. All right. So I've also added it to the Iran Revolution Live playlist. Thank you, Kitty, for that suggestion. Really appreciate that. Okay. And our last super chat comes from CatNot3041. Crazy. Islamism, Islamic terrorism, political Islam, Muslim anti-Semitism are a problem, and that's not Islamophobia. I agree. It's not Islamophobia. It's not. I mean, that's the ideology that ruined Iran. And we Iranians have been trying to warn the rest of the world. Guys, Islamophobia is a fake made-up word that was created by the oppressors of the Iranian people to try and silence us for when we speak out about it. P.S. You live in Colorado. Oh, super cool. Colorado's a great state. Love the Rockies. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. So yeah, no, beautiful place, beautiful state. Okay, guys. So thank you everyone for joining. Just one more thing before we go. Look at this, guys. So look at what CNN. Apparently CNN is now once again posting Islamic regime propaganda. Remember, like earlier today, we were telling you how the Islamic regime is like now like promoting children using like, guns and stuff. And keep in mind, these weapons are not meant for the United States and Israel. These weapons are meant to be used against the innocent and unarmed Iranian people. And now CNN's pretty much being a useful idiot for the Islamic regime and spreading their propaganda.
Threats from the White House. Ordinary Iranians are now being...
No, they're not ordinary Iranians, you freak. These are not ordinary Iranians. These are Islamic regime supporters and their children. Half of them aren't even Iranians. Ordinary Iranians are the ones who are being murdered by the regime. Do you see how CNN is spreading Islamic regime blood libel? Like ordinary Iranians. Okay, buddy.
Threats from the White House. Ordinary Iranians are now being urged to prepare for war.
Yeah. There's nothing ordinary about these Iranians.
Right, well, these rallies or gatherings have been taking place every single night.
Yeah, because they're organized by the Islamic regime. People are paid to go. Half of them aren't even Iranian, you idiot. But you know that. You know that, guys. Like, listen, CNN is spreading Islamic regime propaganda. There's no freedom of press inside of a totalitarian Islamic dictatorship. CNN is only allowed to say what the Islamic regime tells them to say. Like, this is pure trash right now. Like, we're literally what? Like, we're 15 seconds in, and already this is like utter garbage crap.
For the past several weeks, and so they're not new. But what is new is the introduction of weapons. And these kiosks have been set up in each...
What the fuck? Like this? Oh my gosh, I shouldn't swear. Oh my gosh, I just swore. Wow, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I usually do not swear. You guys know I have a very strict no swearing rule. Look at this. What is this? What is this? Like, this is not an ordinary Iranian. Like, this is like the Durka jihadi woman. Like, what? Do they actually, like the CNN actually think that this woman is preparing to fight against the United States and Israel? No, this is meant to try to like scare and frighten the Iranian population. God, I hate CNN. They're so stupid.
Of these sort of squares where members of the military there, you can see them with masks on, they're showing people, in this case a woman, basic skills of how to use what I think is an AK-47 or a Kalashnikov and things like that. Look over here, they're showing children how to use them as well.
Look at that! What? Why is this girl wearing hijab? This girl is what, like 7, 8 years old? Why is she wearing hijab? Why are they teaching a 7-year-old girl to hold it like a gun and shoot a gun? Like, what in the Allahu Akbar Durka jihad nonsense am I watching here? And you know what's really messed up? Do you know why they're making this 7-year-old wear hijab? You know why? The reason that the Muslim Nazis and the parents of this child are making her wear hijab at the age of 7 is because hijab is meant to protect women and protect or prevent men from becoming sexually aroused when they see a woman. So the fact that they are covering up this 7-year-old girl, they're basically implying that they believe that Muslim men will be sexually aroused when they see a 7-year-old child, and therefore they must cover the 7-year-old child. That's what hijab means, guys. That's what the hijab means when they cover up a 7-year-old girl. Yeah. Like, it's literally like a sick mentality. Like, the guys, the hijab is one of the most hijab sexualizes women, okay? Hijab actually has the opposite intended effect, because when you put hijab on a child, you're sexualizing that child. You're basically saying that this child has the capability to sexually arouse Muslim men, and therefore we need to cover the child so that the men won't get sexually aroused and rape the child. That's basically what it means. That's what it means in this situation, right? Like, it's literally messed up. I mean, aside from the fact that, like, now they're teaching this 7-year-old young child like how to hold a gun. And by the way, guys, these are not the children of ordinary Iranians. These are their own children. Like, these are Basij children. These are IRGC children, right? Like, these are not ordinary Iranians. Like, CNN.
It's all part of a sort of state-sponsored call to arms in case the war begins again. It's all guns on state television too. It's several Iranian channels broadcasting their hosts brandishing assault rifles. They gave me a weapon so I could learn how to use it, like you, this anchor tells her viewers.
Yeah, except these are the weapons that are being used to murder Iranian people. These weapons are not being used against Americans or Israelis. That's the messed up part. Oh, we showed all of this earlier today, guys.
Training, this presenter fires off a round.
Look at this, guys. For those of you who watched Iran Revolution Live earlier today, we shared all of this and we explained it, right? Like we explained the context behind it. But look at this. Oh, look, this guy's wearing a mask because he doesn't want to be recognized, right? Because he's afraid that once the Islamic regime is overthrown, people are going to come after him because they're going to recognize him. Don't worry, buddy. We'll find you too.
Into the studio ceiling.
What the what? What is that? Like what? So like now Islamic regime like news anchors or TV whatever people are literally just like firing guns into the air. Like this is the insanity of the Islamic regime.
To the studio ceiling. But not all Iranians are gunning for a fight. Just around the corner from the rally, hints at the diversity of views about their country's plight. Well, it's a very different atmosphere in this part of town. People are sitting with their partners, having coffees.
Yeah, guys, this is the rich part of town. This is northern Tehran. This is northern Tehran, and it is insane that CNN is showing northern Tehran, which is basically where all the rich people are, and it's a small part of the city. And yeah, people do walk around without hijab or whatever because they bribe off the Islamic morality police, right? This is not how the vast majority of the country is.
Strolling around the bookstores.
Right? Like there's extreme poverty. There's extreme poverty. 70% of Iranians live below the poverty line. 70% of Iranians can't afford to buy eggs. Okay? They cannot even afford to buy eggs to feed their family, let alone meat, or go out to a freaking cafe and have a meal or something. This is so insane.
Around the bookstores or just hanging out with their friends, and you talk to people, you get very different views as well. People didn't want to talk on camera, but off camera.
Yeah, obviously they don't want to talk on camera, and shame on you because you're like, do you not see how uncomfortable those people look? Like CNN is literally endangering the lives of Iranians because no one's going to talk on camera, you idiot. The country is a totalitarian Islamic dictatorship. If you speak out against the regime, you're executed. Wow. Like, he's literally in danger. Like, look how uncomfortable those girls look. Like, look how uncomfortable they look, right?
Out with their friends, and you talk to people, you get very different views as well. People didn't want to talk on camera, but off camera, one woman said to me she just wanted peace and freedom. Another one said she wanted to live in a normal country where there was a potential future for her children. But Iran's future, to many Iranians, looks increasingly clear, especially amid regular threats from President Trump. Waiting for the war.
We're waiting. We're here because we know.
See, guys, so the only Iranians who are willing to speak on camera are the ones who are part of the Islamic regime. The regular, normal Iranians who are against the Islamic regime will never speak on camera because it's a death sentence, right? So you only get the Durka jihadis. You only get the Durka jihadis who aren't even Iranian. They're the ones who are going to speak on camera, right?
This war isn't over. We know he's not going to negotiate anything. He's just going to be like, either you do what I tell you, or I'm going to.
Look, this one is definitely like Afghan. Like this one is Afghani for sure, right? Like they're not even Iranian. The people who support the Islamic regime are not even Iranian. We've shown you guys so many of these videos, but look right there, an Afghan woman.
Kill you again.
And it may be that bleak sense of inevitability, drowning out any voices.
Look. Garbage CNN as usual, right? Like no mention of the fact that the Islamic regime slaughtered 40,000 innocent Iranians, 5 months ago? No mention of that. But sure, let's bring a bunch of Durkas on camera and they can pretend oh, Iranians are behind the Islamic regime. Yeah, okay. Right? The one speaking, that one didn't look Iranian either. That one looked Arab to me, probably like a Palestinian or something. Jeez. Honestly, these people are garbage. Absolute garbage. All right, guys. So on that note, I'm going to end the live stream. I hope that this was informative, and I want to thank all of you for joining me tonight. Make sure that you like and subscribe to my channel. Make sure that you turn on notifications so that you'll know when my next Goldie Show live stream is going to happen. Still trying to figure out the timing, but you know, with all the breaking news, it gets difficult a little bit here and there. However, I will see all of you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern for Iran Revolution Live. So until then, stay safe, and Payan de Iran and Javid Shah. Thank you guys for being here.
Talking of peace, but you know how it ends. Smiles for the cameras, deals in the light, but truth disappears somewhere out of sight. Mullahs behind it, controlling the flow. You shake hands with fire, but you already know. Still grow, dreaming of a future they don't even know. Deals at the top while the pressure runs low, and down below the fear continues to grow. Deal with the devil, you know what it costs. Promises fade while the lines get crossed. Deal with the devil, you hear their call. Voices in chains still rise and fall. Deal with the devil, don't look away. Taken day by day. Mr. Trump, now the moment is real. Reagan or Obama, pressure or deal. One stands firm, one bends to the game. History writes down the choice and the name. Stand with strength, don't